Chapter 1283. Great Demon Venerable turned to look outside the shop. He lowered his voice and said again, "A large number of powerhouses have come to Hessen Castle recently, including several perfected golden immortals. Several powerhouses from the surrounding immortal domains have also rushed to Moongazing Monarch City, because of the bet between 9 Nether Swordmeister and Venerable Netherworld. On the surface, the entire Moongazing Monarch City seems to be peaceful, but undercurrents are surging in the dark. If the news of the Hunter clan's young master's death were to spread out because of your wild speculations, it will bring us great trouble." The shop assistants looked at each other in dismay and finally realized the seriousness of the matter, so they promised that they would never speak about it. Great Demon Venerable waved his hand and said, "I'll give each of you 100 immortal crystals later. Just stay in the shop and cultivate for the time being. I'm going to stroll around and see some old friends." At the stargazing pavilion. As soon as Tan Xiao came back, he learned from Gu Yan, that 6 spirit formation stage members of the Tiger Legion, and a high-ranking official of the Great Tang Empire, Chen Xiaohua, had been attacked by a group of unidentified experts. The other side had an immortal holding the line. Fortunately, the demon immortal who was protecting them appeared in time, and prevented them from being killed. "Who are these people?" Tan Xiao's face turned cold and he asked in a deep voice. "There's no news yet," Gu Yanner said. "The intelligence department doesn't have an intelligence network here, and we're not familiar with this place, so we don't know who they are for the time being. However, 2 golden immortals have rushed over there, and they should be able to solve the problem there." "Where are they?" asked Tan Xiao. "They're at the Thick Earth River, where the river breaks off," answered Gu Yanner. "Let's go," Tan Xiao said. "Let's go and have a look. We met a lot of powerhouses on the way back, and many of them should be from other immortal domains. I think Moongazing Monarch City won't be very peaceful in the coming days." "What's going to happen?" Gu Yanner was confused. "Isn't the bet between 2 perfected golden immortals a big deal?" asked Tan Xiao lightly. "This Hessen Castle is just a small immortal domain. There are no supremes here at all. A perfected golden immortal is already considered very terrifying among the billions of living beings here." "You're right." Gu Yanner nodded and said, "There are only a few perfected golden immortals in the entire Hessen Castle. Not even 1 in a million perfected golden immortals could break through to the supremacy stage. Therefore, the bet between 2 perfected golden immortals was indeed a big deal. However, the cultivation of our Great Tang Empire's people isn't high, so it shouldn't be a problem if we just restrain them and let them understand the situation in the immortal world and prevent them from stirring up trouble." Tan Xiao said, "There are too many people in the Empire, so accidents are inevitable. I've decided to buy a batch of golden immortal experts from the convict arena in the near future." "We only have 20 golden immortals now," Gu Yanner nodded and said. "It's indeed not enough. If we buy another batch, we'll be able to deal with any danger we encounter in the future." Thick Earth River, where the flow stopped. 2 golden immortals and a celestial immortal monster immortal from the Great Tang Empire blocked Chen Xiaohua and the 6 members of the Tiger Legion, and confronted a group of immortals. At this moment, the celestial immortal monster immortal's clothes were stained with green blood, and the immortal sword in his hand was broken into 2 pieces. Chen Xiaohua and the 6 members of the Tiger Legion were also scarred and looked very miserable. The other party, there were a total of 18 people. Apart from a profound immortal, there were 4 celestial immortals, and the rest were cultivators whose strength was almost at the soul formation stage. The young man surrounded by the 4 celestial immortals and 1 profound immortal was a soul formation cultivator. He didn't look very old, and was at most 17 or 18 years old. His face was pale, and his body was thin, giving him an unruly look. "Hand over the purple diamond gold, and I'll spare your lives. Otherwise, you'll die without a burial place when the elders of my Night Wolf clan arrive." The young man's murderous eyes constantly swept over the members of the Great Tang Empire, and threatened them. Although Chen Xiaohua was seriously injured, his eyes still flashed with a cold light. After walking to the side of the 2 golden immortals, he said indifferently, "We got the purple diamond gold first. Why should we give it to you? I told you that unless you're willing to buy it with 1 million immortal crystals, don't even think about it." The young man clenched his fists, and his eyes flashed with murderous intent. He raised his chin and said, "No one dares to snatch the things that I, Nightwolf Skyflower, have taken a fancy to. Even if you took a fancy to it first, you must hand it over. This young master is very upset now. If you don't hand it over, I'll make you die without a burial place." After saying that, a purple gold wine gourd appeared in his hand out of thin air. He pulled out the cork and drank a mouthful of immortal wine. Then he said proudly, "You should be from the other immortal domains, right? You've never heard of my Nightwolf clan. You're really ignorant. Let me tell you, my Nightwolf clan is one of the top clans in the entire moon-gazing monarch city. Our clan has countless golden immortals, and our ancestor is a late-stage golden immortal. Unfortunately, our ancestor is meeting with his old friend in moon-gazing monarch city. This young master has just informed my ancestor, so he might be able to arrive soon. If you don't hand over the purple diamond gold, you'll definitely die a miserable death." Late-stage golden immortal? Disdain flashed in the eyes of the two late-stage golden immortals. However, their duty was to protect the people of the Great Tang Empire, not to be the master of the clan. Therefore, they just looked at Chen Xiaohua. As long as Chen Xiaohua gave the order, they would immediately kill him. Chen Xiaohua was a bit hesitant. He didn't know that the two powerhouses beside him were late-stage golden immortals. He even remembered what His Majesty Tan Xiu had said, that he shouldn't stir up trouble outside. In addition, he didn't know much about the situation in the immortal world, and he didn't know how big the clans in the immortal world were. Therefore, he was a bit hesitant and didn't know what to choose. Suddenly, everyone looked in the direction of moon-gazing monarch city. They could feel dozens of powerful auras approaching them. One of the auras even made the two late-stage golden immortals of the Great Tang Empire feel a sense of crisis. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In just a few breaths, dozens of figures had appeared in front of everyone. "Tianhua, I've received your distress signal. What's going on here?" one of the elders asked with a frown. "Tianhua, I've received your distress signal." Tianhua Yelong hurriedly shouted, "Ancestor, the purple diamond gold I wanted was actually snatched away by this group of people. Originally, we juniors who haven't ascended to immortal realm fought with them, but they weren't our match, so a monster immortal took action. Then they couldn't beat us, so they called for help. Those two fellows seem to be profound immortals." Yelong Hanggu, the ancestor of the Yelong family, had broken through to the perfected golden immortal realm a few decades ago. However, he was a low-key person, so only a few people in the entire moon-gazing monarch city knew that he had broken through to the perfected golden immortal realm. He looked at the two golden immortals of the Great Tang Empire, and frowned slightly. He was keenly aware that although the other party exuded the aura of a golden immortal powerhouse, it still made him feel a bit of fear. Just two weak late-stage golden immortals. Just kill them. A fat middle-aged man standing next to Yelong Hanggu said indifferently with disdain in his eyes. Yelong Hanggu recalled his identity as a perfected golden immortal, and the mid-stage perfected golden immortal 9 Nether Swordmeister next to him. He immediately showed a relaxed expression and sneered. Indeed, golden immortals do have some ability, but it's also very easy to kill them. Chen Xiaohua's expression changed. He was keenly aware of the change in the expressions of the two golden immortals next to him, and immediately had a bad premonition. He knew that he was probably in trouble. However, he gritted his teeth and took a few steps forward again. Then he said in a deep voice, "Although you are all powerhouses, perhaps even perfected golden immortals, but this matter has nothing to do with the other people of the Great Tang Empire. I admit that I'm not your opponent. I'll give you the purple diamond gold. You can kill me if you want, but don't implicate others." "Bullshit, Great Tang Empire. You're just a bunch of cowards." Yelong Hanggu sneered. With that said, he was about to attack. At the side, 9 Nether Swordmeister wore a strange expression. He noticed that Yelong Hanggu was about to attack, so he hurriedly raised his hand to stop him. He then looked at Chen Xiaohua and asked, "You said you're from the Great Tang Empire? Does your Great Tang Empire have someone called Great Tang Heavenly Emperor?" "Great Tang Heavenly Emperor?" Chen Xiaohua knew that this was Tan Xiu's alias in the immortal world, so he indifferently said, He's the emperor of our great Tang Empire. Nine Nether Swordmeister was stunned. He immediately looked at the two late-stage golden immortals and asked, "Did Great Tang Heavenly Emperor buy you from the convict arena?" "That's right," answered one of the golden immortals. Nine Nether Swordmeister forced a smile and waved his hand. "Brother Yelong, let's just forget about this matter. I'll be the peacemaker and give this purple diamond gold to the people of the Great Tang Empire." Yelong Hongwu looked surprised and asked, "Do you know this Great Tang Heavenly Emperor, Brother Nine Nether?" "Not only that, but I also bought these two golden immortals from the convict arena." Nine Nether Swordmeister nodded and said, "Not only that, but I also bought these two golden immortals from the convict arena. I bought them from a total of 20 late-stage golden immortals, all of whom came from the convict arena." Gasp! Yelong Hongwu looked incredulous and asked in surprise, "What's the origin of this Great Tang Heavenly Emperor, Brother Nine Nether? He's actually worth your—" Nine Nether Swordmeister interrupted him and smilingly said, "Speaking of which, I'm also quite curious about this Great Tang Lil Bro's identity. But everyone has their own secrets. Since he doesn't want to tell me now, I naturally won't force him. Also, I had a bet with this Great Tang Lil Bro, but I didn't expect that I would lose to him. Therefore, he'll be one of my external helpers 3 months later." Chapter 1284. Hongwu pondered for a moment and silently nodded. "Since Brother Nine Nether wants to be the peacemaker, then let's just forget about this matter. It's just a purple diamond or it's nothing to me." Tianhua Yelong didn't know Nine Nether Swordmeister's identity, so he immediately became anxious and shouted, "Why are you listening to others, ancestor? That purple diamond or can strengthen my bones to the point that they're comparable to the bones of crossing tribulation stage experts. You must help me snatch it. You bastard." A cold light flashed in Hongwu Yelong's eyes. Although he was somewhat reluctant, he still slapped Tianhua Yelong's face and sent him flying more than 10 meters away. Then he slowly turned around and looked in the direction of Mungmanarch City. At the same time, the others also looked in the direction of Mungmanarch City, because they all sensed more than a dozen powerful auras coming over. "I didn't expect to see you here, Brother Nine Nether." Surrounded by a group of people, Tan Xiu came in front of everyone with a bright smile on his handsome face. "I was chatting with Brother Hongwu Yelong in Mungmanarch City, but I didn't expect that he would receive a call for help from his family's juniors, so I followed him here. I didn't expect that the juniors of the Yelong family would have a conflict with your people." Tan Xiu nodded with a smile and quickly threw 8 healing pills to Chen Xiaohua and the others. Then he looked at Hongwu Yelong and lightly smiled. "Are you Hongwu Yelong, sir?" Hongwu Yelong's brows were tightly furrowed. He never expected that one of Nine Nether Swordmeister's helpers would turn out to be a young man who had just broken through to the immortal stage. Yet, such a person dared to call himself Great Tang Heavenly Emperor? Hongwu Yelong secretly shook his head. Out of consideration for Nine Nether Swordmeister's sake, he was about to speak when his eyes inadvertently glanced at Gu Yan, behind Tan Xiu. "What?" Hongwu Yelong's expression froze and his pupils suddenly shrunk. Even his body trembled violently. Then he staggered back a few steps, his eyes widened in fear, and slowly raised his arm to point at Gu Yanner. Gu Yanner frowned deeply. She didn't expect that she would actually meet someone she was familiar with in such a remote immortal domain. Taking a step forward, Gu Yanner indifferently said, "That dog of mine in the past has unexpectedly become a perfected golden immortal. If I had known that something like this would happen today, I would have killed you directly to save our time." The expression on Hongwu's face was uglier than crying. Nine Nether Swordmeister and the rest of the Yelong clan were confused as he staggered toward Gu Yan, step by step. Beads of sweat covered his forehead, face and neck. When he was only a dozen meters away from Gu Yan, his knees slammed to the ground and his forehead hit the ground. Full of fear, he said in a trembling voice, It's this lowly one who deserves to die. I didn't know they were your people, please spare my lowly life, please." These words made everyone dumbfounded. Everyone was dumbfounded, and their eyes were filled with disbelief. Nine Nether Swordmeister's eyes were full of vigilance, and a storm was brewing inside his heart. It must be noted that Hongwu was now a perfected golden immortal. even if he had just broken through to the perfected golden immortal stage not long ago. The fact that he could take this step showed that he was already very strong. However, he was a dignified perfected golden immortal. He actually looked like a dog kneeling in front of Gu Yenner and begging for mercy. What did this mean? It meant that the woman next to Great Tang Heavenly Emperor was absolutely terrifying. Gu Yenner just glanced at him indifferently and then turned to Tan Xiao and respectfully said, "Master, I slaughtered an entire immortal domain back then because I was too lazy to deal with some ants. So I caught some ruthless people and made them kill people for me. He's one of them. I remember that he was just a little guy at the golden immortal stage at that time." Master? Hongwu was so scared that his soul almost left his body and he nearly pissed his pants. Back then, this demoness strength was already terrifying to the extreme. Yet he never thought that this Great Tang Heavenly Emperor would turn out to be her master. Heavens! They deliberately hid their strength like this. This is no different from pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. Tan Xiao gently nodded and looked at Hongwu, who was kneeling on the ground. He quickly thought about how to solve this matter. Their identities were very important and couldn't be easily exposed. Gu Yenner once told him that although she had killed many people in the immortal world, only a few people knew that she was his disciple. In other words, the other party only knew that Gu Yenner was very terrifying, but he couldn't guess his identity through Gu Yenner. Furthermore, he was now a perfected golden immortal. If he really fought with him, even if his side won in the end, it was likely that they would have to pay a huge price. Then Tan Xiao sighed faintly and said, "Yenner, I've told you many times not to kill the innocent. I didn't restrain you when you messed around in the past, but don't do it again in the future. He did help you after all, so he's not your enemy. Just forget it." Gu Yenner tacitly understood. She looked at Hongwu and indifferently said, "You must be very clear about my rules. What should be done and what shouldn't be done. What should be said and what shouldn't be said." Hongwu looked ecstatic and nodded desperately. Yes. This lowly one will abide by your rules. I won't do anything that I shouldn't do. I won't say anything that I shouldn't say. Go back to your territory and don't come out again for 100 years, said Gu Yenner. Yes. I'll get the hell out of here right away. Hongwu revealed an expression of gratitude. Then he waved his sleeve, and the other members of the Yelong clan exploded into a mist of blood. They were killed in an instant. Then, as if he wished he could grow a few more legs, he fled into the distance in a sorry state. Nine Nether Swordmeister was completely shaken. He never dreamed that a dignified perfected golden immortal like the Yelong, Hongwu, would be afraid to such an extent that he would even kill his descendants with his own hands because of the other party's identity. How scared was he? Tan Xiao secretly shook his head. Then he looked at Nine Nether Swordmeister and lightly smiled. Sorry, brother Nine Nether. I made a joke out of myself. Nine Nether Swordmeister quietly gulped and shook his head with a forced smile. It's not a joke, but it's a bit scary. Brother Hongwu Yelong. He's also a perfected golden immortal, but I didn't expect that he would be. Forget it. There are some things I understand, so I won't ask. Great Tang brother, I hope you can help me in the bet 2 or 3 months from now. Don't worry. Tan Xiao nodded and smilingly said, I will do my best. Nine Nether Swordmeister took another look at Gu Yenner and then took his leave. He was now secretly guessing whether Gu Yenner was deliberately hiding her strength. Otherwise, how could a golden immortal frighten a Zenith Heaven golden immortal like that? In the same place, only Tan Xiao's group was left. Gu Yenner transmitted her voice and asked, Master, should we kill the Yelong Hongwu? Tan Xiao asked, He knows your true identity? And our relationship? Gu Yenner said, He knows my true identity, but he doesn't know our relationship. Tan Xiao said, Knowing your identity is a troublesome matter after all. Others might not know about the relationship between us, but they definitely did, including the Celestial Mystery Emperor and Shade Demon Wuxia. So, before we leave, we must get rid of him. Gu Yenner said, In that case, I'm afraid we need to stay here for a long time. Tan Xiao gave it a thought and said, No need. I'm going to the Tianluo Immortal Domain, and we'll come back before Nine Nether Heavenly Emperor and the others gamble. What are you going to do there? Gu Yenner's expression shifted and she hurriedly asked. I'm going to buy deathmatch gladiators, answered Tan Xiao. You want to buy a perfected golden immortal gladiator? Asked Gu Yenner. You must know that each perfected golden immortal gladiator is very terrifying. Do we have so many crystal essences? Tan Xiao said. A perfected golden immortal gladiator can be bought with tens of millions of crystal essences. I got a lot of crystal essences recently, enough to buy a perfected golden immortal gladiator. I'll find a way to get more crystal essences when I get to the Tianluo immortal domain, and try to buy 2 early-stage perfected golden immortal gladiators. Shall I go with you, master? Asked Gu Yenner. I won't feel at ease otherwise. Tan Xiao calmly said. Don't forget my former identity, Yenner. After all, I can become a supremacy stage powerhouse, so I still have a way to survive. Besides, you can't leave Mungmanarch City. Although that person has left, I don't think he can be completely at ease and will definitely send someone to pay attention to your information. He can only feel at ease if you stay in Mungmanarch City. Gu Yenner nodded silently and said, Then take all the golden immortals with you. I'll only take Battle Peng and 4 golden immortals with me, said Tan Xiao. The rest will stay with you. With fewer people, it's not easy to be noticed. Wait until I buy a perfected golden immortal gladiator. Then there won't be any danger. Gu Yenner still wanted to say something, but after seeing the firm expression on Tan Xiao's face, she finally had no choice but to agree. Shortly after, everyone returned to Mungmanarch City. Tan Xiao, Gu Yenner, and the others entered the stargazing pavilion under the attention of many people. Only 2 days later, Tan Xiao took Battle Peng and the other 4 golden immortals and left quietly. Except for the golden immortal old man in the stargazing pavilion, no one else noticed them at all. There was only one immortal domain between Hessian Castle and the perfected immortal domain. It took Tan Xiao's group of 6-7 days to rush to the perfected immortal domain. Although they encountered some troubles along the way, the other party was scared witless after Battle Peng, and the others released their auras, so there was no fight. Chapter 1285. Exalted Immortal Domain. It was one of the most vast large immortal domains and ranked in the top 50 even in the entire immortal world. And the owner of this immortal domain was a supremacy stage powerhouse. A total of 18 large continents with a distance of only 1,000,000 kilometers from each other formed a prosperous gathering place in the vast universe. There were countless immortal sects on these 18 large continents, and all kinds of forces were mixed together. Strength was the best way to survive here. The 16th mainland. It was the largest convict arena in the surrounding dozens of immortal domains, and also the most chaotic place in the entire exalted immortal domain. This continent was filled with the strong smell of money and violence. Immortal stones, immortal crystals, crystal essences, and other precious treasures. As long as one had these, one could enjoy a heaven-like life here and look down on the poor, even if the other party was a golden immortal. When Tan Xiao led Battle Peng and the other 4 golden immortals through the spatial gate and landed on this continent, he spent a lot of immortal stones and appeared in the central city of the 16th mainland through a teleportation array. Central City. A late-stage perfected golden immortal presided over the place and 4 early-stage and mid-stage perfected golden immortals assisted him. However, they rarely appeared in front of others unless there was a major event in the 16th mainland. Tan Xiao's group of 6 rode on their immortal swords and wandered around the central city twice before finally landing at the gate of the convict arena. It looked like a crouching black behemoth and occupied a very large area. Tan Xiao's eyesight could see the scene hundreds of thousands of miles away, but he couldn't see the end of the building even if he stood outside the gate. Master. Battle Peng's group of 5 looked at the huge plaque that was 1,000 meters long and 200 meters wide with the golden words, Convict Arena, written on it with complex expressions in their eyes. They hated this place and really wanted to never step into any convict arena again unless it was absolutely necessary. Tan Xiao slowly turned around and looked at the complicated expressions of the 5 people. He sighed inwardly and said, You've all been freed from the convict arena. You'll never come back here again, unless I'm killed in the future. Therefore, I bid farewell to the past. You are here as guests. You are a lord who can wield a large amount of wealth. Moreover, if it wasn't for the tempering of life and death in the convict arena, would all of you have your current cultivation realms? How could he have such combat strength? Remember my words, there are always two sides to every coin. It all depends on what perspective you use and what aspect of the problem you are looking at. Battle Peng and the other four exchanged glances and nodded heavily. They had always thought that it was a shameful experience that they could not bear to recall. However, after Tan Xiu's guidance, they suddenly realized that without the life and death tempering in the convict arena, they would not have the strength of a late-stage golden immortal, a powerhouse. In order to temper themselves, they would often hover on the edge of life and death countless times. Compared to them, other than the restriction of freedom, what other difference was there? All of a sudden, the enlightenment of the five people caused their mental states to transform. Even though it was difficult for them to comprehend more of the truth, at the very least, they had the heart of a strong person. Any hardship was a form of training for life. Any danger was the cornerstone of the road to a stronger one. Tan Xiu looked at the five people, and was keenly aware that there was a slight change in their aura. Although the change in aura was very weak, the knot in their hearts had been untied. As long as their hearts were firm and they worked hard to cultivate, there would eventually be a glimmer of hope in the future to break through to the perfected golden immortal realm. Go in. Tan Xiu nodded with satisfaction, and turned to step into the gate of the convict arena. The spacious space was like being in a world cast of steel. At the top of a height of 10,000 meters, there were finely carved murals. Soft crystals exuded a milky white light, illuminating the inside as if it was daytime. On both sides of the wide corridor, close to the steel walls, were statues of ferocious birds and beasts baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. The light emitted by the rubies and sapphires intersected, and a fragrant spiritual liquid was sprayed from the mouths of the ferocious birds and beasts, forming a beautiful picture. On the side of the statue beside the corridor, there was a beautiful female attendant standing quietly. Every time a guest came, one of the female attendants would come out from the outermost female attendants to greet and serve the guest. Qinyu. She was an orphan girl raised by a loose immortal. Because the loose immortal failed to cross the tribulation, she finally joined the convict arena and became a guest attendant with the help of her good sister in order to support herself. Recently, Qinyu's life had been very difficult because her only good sister had been seriously injured because she had offended an arrogant and despotic guest. In order to buy healing elixirs for her good sister, she not only consumed all the immortal stones she had saved for more than 10 years, but also owed the Water Conservancy sect a high-interest loan. Half a year. There was only half a year left to repay the Water Conservancy sect's high-interest loan. If she didn't collect enough immortal stones within half a year, she would be captured by the Water Conservancy sect and become a lowly slave. Countless times, she looked forward to meeting a generous guest. Even if the reward was higher than the other guests, she would be grateful to tears. There are guests coming. Qinyu's fleeting eyes suddenly froze. When she looked at the 6 people walking in the distance, her eyes finally fell on Tan Xiu, and suddenly a look of disappointment grew in her heart. According to her more than 10 years of experience, handsome young cultivators were generally not very generous. Most of the guests with big bellies and rich auras were very generous. As long as one could coax them and make them happy, the reward would be a lot more. However, according to the order, Qinyu could only greet them with disappointment and said, "Welcome, distinguished guests. I'm Attendant Qinyu, and I'm your guide during your stay in the convict arena. You can consult me if you have any questions." "Lead the way," said Tan Xiu calmly with a nod. Qinyu gently nodded and turned to walk inside. But the moment she turned around, the disappointment in her eyes became more intense. That was because when ordinary guests came, they would casually throw a few immortal stones as a reward, which would make the attendant serve them more attentively. Soon after, when everyone disappeared in the front corridor, the dozens of female attendants on both sides of the corridor who were closest to Qinyu's previous position showed a mocking look. They clearly saw that Qinyu didn't get the reward just now. Wenwen usually didn't have a good relationship with Qinyu because she had some enmity with her good friend. With no guests nearby, Wenwen sneered and said, "Qinyu is such an idiot. She gave all her belongings to that slut to buy healing pills, and even borrowed money from the Water Conservancy sect at high interest. If she can't get enough immortal stones after half a year, she'll be miserable. Another female attendant gloated and said, "Who told her to meddle in other people's business? She doesn't even know how capable she is, right? She even helped others. Just wait and see. With her bad luck, let alone half a year, she probably won't be able to get enough immortal stones even in a year. I just don't know if she'll be sold to a brothel or sold to a rich family as a slave after half a year. She'll do whatever she can. It's really a pity that Qinyu has such a docile character. Yet she ended up in such a situation. I hope she can pray for her own good. I kind of sympathize with Qinyu, but when I think about her friend, I immediately feel that she deserves it. Just wait and see. At that time, not only will Qinyu be out of luck, but that slut will also be out of luck. I hope they'll all be out of luck." The smile on Wenwen's face grew wider as her gaze swept across the faces of the girls. She was also praying for Qinyu and her good sister to be out of luck. Suddenly, her expression changed as she noticed that several guests were quickly approaching. Her eyes immediately lit up because the fat middle-aged man in the lead was dressed like a nouveau riche. Generally, when they met such guests, they would get a lot of rewards. "Lead the way." When the fat middle-aged man saw Wenwen coming up to greet him, he didn't even give her time to speak. He casually threw out an immortal crystal and walked inside in high spirits. After a while, there was a burst of exclamations in the corridor, because they rarely met such a generous guest. They were rewarded with an immortal crystal at the beginning, which was a total of 100 immortal stones. If the service was better and the other party was very satisfied, they would probably get more rewards. For a moment, pairs of envious eyes lingered in the direction where Wenwen and the fat middle-aged man disappeared. Tan Xiao strolled in the seemingly endless corridor. His seemingly light footsteps were actually very fast. In the blink of an eye, he could move hundreds of meters forward. Qinyu, who was only at the nascent soul stage, was wrapped by Battle Pang's immortal force. She didn't even need to move her feet to steadily follow beside Tan Xiao. "Qinyu, right?" "Yes." Qinyu hurriedly nodded. Tan Xiao said, "It has been more than 2,000 years since I last came to the prison arena of the Great Luo Immortal Domain. I don't know much about the current situation here. Talk to me about the situation here." "More than 2,000 years?" Qinyu's eyes revealed a look of disbelief because the guest in front of her was really too young. Even the aura on his body was full of vitality. He didn't look like an old monster who had lived for more than 2,000 years at all. However, Qinyu also knew that the appearance of an immortal could be constantly adjusted and changed in the process of cultivation. Even an old monster who had lived for 10,000 years might look like a teenager. In addition, the smart Qinyu realized that the guest in front of her had a very high cultivation level. At least, he was a powerhouse above the immortal realm. In the face of such a powerhouse, Qinyu's heart finally had a trace of expectation. Because many great figures in the immortal world, once they took action, the reward would not be a small amount. The return from the immortal world is coming to an end. Quiet Night has made a ranking of all the women who appeared in the immortal world on the WeChat public account. Brothers and sisters can also participate in this ranking. Please search for Quiet Night Thoughts in the WeChat subscription account, or directly enter JYJS00 to follow. Quiet Night updated Han Qingwu's character pictures and ranking on the public account yesterday. Everyone can express their opinions freely. _. Chapter 1286. Qinyu's attitude became more respectful. She quickly organized her words and introduced, "Honored guest, I don't know much about the situation more than 2,000 years ago. I don't know the difference between 2,000 years ago and now. The first half of the convict arena is now filled with shops selling all kinds of resources, all of which belong to the convict arena. The second half is the convict arena's cage, the place where the deathmatch gladiators fight from weak to strong, and so on. From the weakest to the strongest, and so on. The deepest part is the place where perfected golden immortal gladiators fight each other." Through Qinyu's explanation, Tan Xiao had a better understanding of the situation here. There wasn't much difference from 2,000 years ago, except that the chief steward here had been replaced, and most of the senior management had been replaced by new people. Passing through the row upon row of shops and seeing the dazzling array of goods, Tan Xiu's heart was full of longing, but he still tried to restrain it. His main purpose in coming here was to buy perfected golden immortals. He didn't want to waste money even if it was a good treasure. Qinyu, you're participating in the gambling fight. Every level of the convict arena's cage has a different ratio, right? Asked Tan Xiu calmly. You're right, sir. The gambling fight in the convict arena's cage used to be the higher the level, the higher the odds of winning, said Qinyu. But it's no longer the case now. It's a comprehensive evaluation based on the strength of each gladiator in the convict arena's cage, as well as their combat record, and then the odds are set at any time. Tan Xiu's eyes lit up and asked, what's the highest odds here? Qinyu thought for a moment and said, the highest odds in the last decade was a fight 4 years ago. The odds were 42 times. If you win, you can win 42 times the amount of the capital. If you lose, you'll lose everything. I still remember that fight. Most people lost everything, while a few people suddenly became rich. Tan Xiu smiled and nodded. The convict arena finally has some new and exciting rules. I'm looking forward to this trip even more. Let's go. Take me to the celestial immortal convict arena's cage to test my skills. Yes. Qinyu's eyes became even brighter because the higher the level of the cage, the stronger the strength of the guest. This was common sense that she had learned in the convict arena. Therefore, she was even more certain that the guest in front of her was a powerhouse above the immortal realm, one of the countless prison cages. When Tan Xiu and the others, led by Qinyu, stepped into the portal, they saw the 2 heaven immortals fighting fiercely in the distance, as well as the heated scene in the spectator seats. There was a roar, curses, cheers. Every sound entered his ears. Tan Xiu's expression was calm. Under the guidance of Qinyu, he watched the records of 360 deathmatch gladiators in this prison cage. After that, he came to the auditorium and found a place to sit down. This kind of gambling fight, they relied on experience and analysis. Only a small number of people relied on luck. Although Tan Xiu was very weak now, he still had the vision of a supremacy stage expert. Therefore, he could easily judge who was stronger and who was weaker in a fight between heaven immortals. Battle Peng will follow me. The 4 of you go and play. 1 million immortal crystals each. If you lose, you lose. But if you win, you can keep 10% and give the rest to me. Tan Xiu took out the immortal crystals and handed them to the 4. After that, he looked at the fight in the convict arena, which was nearing the end. Understood. The 4 glanced at each other and immediately took the immortal crystals given by Tan Xiu and left the convict arena. Tan Xiu looked at the fight in the convict arena and looked at Qinyu with great interest. He said with a faint smile, "Do you want to bet?" "What do you mean?" Qinyu was stunned and a confused look appeared on her beautiful face. "You choose the 2 people fighting in the convict arena, and I'll choose the rest," Tan Xiu said with a faint smile. "If you win, I'll give you an immortal stone. If I win, you give me an immortal stone. How about it?" Qinyu slightly furrowed her brows. She hesitated for a moment, and then shook her head. "I'm really sorry. I can't afford to lose." Tan Xiu was surprised and asked, "You work in the convict arena and receive more than 1 immortal stone as a reward every time you receive a guest, right? Yet you're telling me that you can't afford to bet?" "I really can't afford to bet. I still owe a high-interest loan," said Qinyu bitterly. "Every immortal stone is very, very important to me now." Tan Xiu looked at Qinyu with a strange expression. The little girl looked gentle and weak, completely the type with a very docile character. Yet she still owed a high-interest loan? You can't judge a book by its cover. Tan Xiu secretly sighed inwardly and no longer mentioned the bet. 2 hours later, the next fight in the convict cage began. Tang Xiu had observed the combat records and specific information of these 2 men, so he could judge who would win the moment they boarded the convict cage. Go and bet 1 million crystal essences on Blazing Flame Celestial Immortal's victory. Tan Xiu handed a temporary interspatial ring to Battle Peng and calmly said. Battle Peng hesitated for a moment before he received the ring, and then said in a low voice, The 4 of them have left, master. If I leave again your side. Don't worry. Tan Xiu waved his hand. No one can kill me unless it's a perfected golden immortal. Battle Peng didn't know where Tan Xiu's confidence came from. But as his subordinate, he could only follow Tan Xiu's instructions and quickly rush to the exchange counter. His speed was very fast. His purpose was to seize the time to exchange the gambling deed, and then quickly return to Tan Xiu's side to protect his safety. A dozen meters away, a white-robed young man dressed like a frail scholar turned to look at Tan Xiu with a bit of surprise. After pondering for a moment, he shook his head and said, "Fellow Immortal, the Blazing Flame Celestial Immortal in the Convict Arena is just a mid-level Celestial Immortal, whereas Freshwater Celestial Immortal is a high-level Celestial Immortal. Besides, water restrains fire, and Freshwater Celestial Immortal can suppress Blazing Flame Celestial Immortal in both aspects. Why do you still bet so heavily? Is it because of the 3-to-1 odds?" Tan Xiu turned to look at the young man. After observing his appearance, he found that he didn't have much hostility and didn't commit many killings. Furthermore, his cultivation should be at the profound immortal stage, so he lightly smiled and said, "Horses don't get fat without nightgrass, and people don't get rich without windfall. Only by taking an unconventional path and daring to take risks can we seek greater benefits. Everyone thinks that Freshwater Celestial Immortal can win, but I'm doing the opposite and betting on Blazing Flame Celestial Immortal to win in the end. Taking an unconventional path? Horses don't get fat without nightgrass, and people don't get rich without windfall?" The eyes of the young man in white instantly lit up. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that it made sense. After observing Tan Xiu deeply for a while, he slightly nodded and then turned to his 2 companions beside him and said, "I'm going to bet on Blazing Flame Celestial Immortal's victory." "Are you crazy? Are you sick? You're going to bet on Blazing Flame Celestial Immortal just because you listened to that brat's nonsense?" The other 2 young men looked incredulous and spoke one after another. The young man in white took a deep breath and firmly said, "I've decided to bet on Blazing Flame Celestial Immortal just because he said something that I agree with. Don't worry, I won't bet too much. I'll accept it even if I lose." "How much are you going to buy then?" asked one of the young men. 1,000,000 immortal crystals, answered the young man in white. Hiss! The other 2 young men immediately gasped after hearing it. The 3 of them were friends who knew each other very well. They grew up together, cultivated together, and belonged to the same sect. It was very clear to them how much wealth they had. 1,000,000 immortal crystals was probably 1/5 of his wealth. "Forget it. Since you've made up your mind, it's useless for us to persuade you. I'll bet on Freshwater Celestial Immortal's victory. I'll also bet on Freshwater Celestial Immortal's victory." The 2 of them pondered for a while, and then said one after another. The young man in white turned to look at Tan Xiu, and found Tan Xiu giving him an appreciative look. His heart immediately relaxed a lot. As a matter of fact, he was also gambling. If he lost, he would lose 1/5 of his wealth, and if he won, he would win 3/5 of his wealth. Inside the convict arena's cage, Blazing Flame Celestial Immortal's heart was surging with flames of anger. His murderous eyes were firmly locked on Freshwater Celestial Immortal, who had a contemptuous look on his face. He had already fought a total of 107 battles in the convict arena. Other than the 2 battles where both sides were heavily injured and ended in a draw, the other 105 battles had all ended with his victory. But this time, he was keenly aware that the people in the convict arena probably wanted him dead. Otherwise, they wouldn't have arranged Freshwater Celestial Immortal as his opponent. After all, anyone with a discerning eye could see that Freshwater Celestial Immortal could suppress him in terms of cultivation level and immortal law. "You're finally going to use that move?" Blazing Flame Celestial Immortal was unwilling, but he had no choice but to use it in order to survive. Freshwater Celestial Immortal contemptuously looked at Blazing Flame Celestial Immortal, hooked his finger, and smilingly said, "I won't bully you. I'll let you have 3 moves. If you can't defeat me in 3 moves, you'll die." 3 moves? A fierce intent flashed inside Blazing Flame Celestial Immortal's heart. His figure instantly transformed and 8 figures appeared at the same time. Every single one of them was burning with raging flames. Then, they constantly moved and surrounded Freshwater Celestial Immortal from 8 directions and launched fierce attacks. You're still using the same old trick. Freshwater Celestial Immortal had long studied Blazing Flame, Celestial Immortal's battle record, and watched his fighting methods. He found that Blazing Flame Celestial Immortal used the same old trick to deal with him, so he immediately despised him. As he unleashed a blue immortal sword, it instantly turned into layers of water curtain sword lights that blocked the 8 figures outside. Infinite destruction. Blazing Flame Celestial Immortal roared inwardly. Suddenly, his 8 figures were torn to shreds. As the sky was filled with flames, fireballs dozens of meters in diameter appeared out of thin air in the sea of fire. At the same time, a flaming spear hidden in one of the fireballs blasted toward Freshwater Celestial Immortal. Chapter 1287. What? Freshwater Celestial Immortal's complexion changed dramatically. He could feel that Blazing Flame's aura had increased several times in a flash, and he could even feel the surrounding space boiling. An unprecedented sense of crisis made his hair stand on end, and he subconsciously wanted to avoid it. However, he was surrounded from all sides and caught off guard. Although he desperately stimulated the immortal force in his body to build up a defense, the violent sea of fire and fireballs bombarded him, causing his body to constantly shake. Every time he shook, he would spit out a mouthful of blood. When thousands of fireballs bombarded his body, his last layer of defense was shattered into pieces. The last one. Freshwater Celestial Immortal's eyes flashed with madness. Because his immortal sword had been bombarded to pieces, he gathered all the power he could into his fists and fiercely bombarded the last fireball he sensed. He was seriously injured. He had to block all of them. Freshwater Celestial Immortal roared. When his fist bombarded the fireball, it exploded in an instant. The result was 100 times easier than he had imagined, making him look stunned. But this expression only lasted for 1/100th of a second before his heart turned cold. How is this possible? Freshwater Celestial Immortal looked down at the bowl-sized hole in the middle of his chest. He could even see his half-broken heart, which was still burning with flames. Underestimating the enemy is always a taboo in a fight. Blazing Flame grinned. As the immortal spear returned to his hand, he watched Freshwater Celestial Immortal fall to the ground in disbelief. He immediately turned around and walked toward the exit of the convict prison with satisfaction. In this fight, even if he used his final trump card to kill Freshwater Celestial Immortal, it would not be easy and he would have to pay a heavy price. Who would have thought Freshwater Celestial Immortal would be so arrogant and commit a taboo in a fight? Therefore, he only suffered a minor injury as a side effect of using a secret technique. Throughout the convict prison, tens of thousands of gambling fighters in the audience stood up with angry expressions on their faces and cursed loudly. Only a small number of people revealed expressions of ecstasy, and most of these people were just making wild guesses. In the back row, White Mountain Celestial Immortal stared blankly at the departing figure of Flaming Celestial Immortal. An inexplicable and strange emotion surged in his heart. He won? Just because of someone else's words. He lost his mind and took the risk, and he actually won? And it wasn't a small sum of money? He slowly turned his head and looked at his 2 companions who were cursing angrily, venting their anger at losing their fortune. Then he shifted his gaze to Tanshio. When he realized that the other party was looking at him and giving him a meaningful smile, he suddenly shivered. Could it be? Had this man guessed that Flaming Flame Celestial Immortal would win? Could it be that he inferred it from the records and specific information of Flaming Flame Celestial Immortal and Freshwater Celestial Immortal? If that's the case, then isn't he too terrifying? Beside Tanshio, Chinyu's beautiful face was also filled with shock. Tanshio had given Battle Pung a total of 1 million crystal essences. She used to think that Tanshio had money to burn, but he had to lose in this kind of place. Who would have thought that he would actually win in a short time? 1 million crystal essences. He won 3 million crystal essences. 3 million crystal essences. It took Chinyu a long time to figure out how many immortal stones 3 million crystal essences were equivalent to. After she figured it out, she nearly fainted from the shock. That was 30 billion immortal stones. Battlepeng, who stood beside Tan Xiao, asked in a low voice. Do you need me to exchange for it, master? No need. Let's continue playing. Tan Xiao shook his head lightly. Battlepeng slightly nodded. He had deep admiration for Tang Xiao's steadiness. It must be noted that 3 million crystal essences was not a small number. On the seats several meters away, after venting, the two companions of the white-robed youth finally sat back in their chairs. They had bet a lot this time, but they lost, which made them feel very pained. Suddenly, one of them looked at the white-robed youth and murmured, I seem to remember that you bet on Blazing Flame Celestial Immortal's victory, Fire Candle? The white-robed youth, Fire Candle, smiled and nodded. I did bet on Blazing Flame Celestial Immortal's victory. The two men glanced at each other with jealousy in their eyes at the same time. The white-robed youth didn't notice the eyes of his two companions. He got up and came to Tan Xiao. He bowed and said, Thank you for your auspicious words, fellow immortal. Can I have the honor to invite you for a drink after you finish playing here? That's right, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Fire Candle of the Star-Seizing Sect. May I know how to address you, fellow immortal? Tan Xiao pointed to the seat next to him, and lightly smiled. You can call me Great Tang Immortal. As for drinking, we'll talk about it later. I still have a lot of things to do. After Fire Candle sat down next to Tan Xiao, he respectfully said, If Great Tang Immortal friend is done with your business, I hope you can do me the honor. All right. Tan Xiao slightly nodded. Fire Candle asked again, Great Tang Immortal friend, do you still want to play? Tan Xiao smiled and said, I'll play some more. Fire Candle thought for a while and said, Since Great Tang Immortal friend wants to play, then I'll accompany you to play. In any case, I won 3 million immortal crystals this time, so I'll take them all out and gamble with Great Tang Immortal. Aren't you afraid of losing it all? Tan Xiao asked with a smile. Losing it won't be a loss for me. After all, the immortal crystals I won are an unexpected windfall. Fire Candle smiled. Tan Xiao couldn't help laughing and said, You have a good mentality. Shortly after, the next contestants entered the convict cage. Tan Xiao quietly analyzed for a while, and felt that one of them had more than 80% chance of winning. So he looked at Battlepeng and said, By Cloudmist Celestial Immortal with 4 million crystal essences. Understood. Battlepeng replied and walked toward the exchange counter with 4 million crystal essences. Fire Candle stared blankly at Battlepeng's back as he left. His lips squirmed a few times before he forced a smile and said, Great Tang Immortal friend. You really don't take the usual path. Cloudmist Celestial Immortal is an expert in illusions. Although his cultivation has reached the late stage of the Celestial Immortal stage, his opponent is Ardent Azure Celestial Immortal, who is known as an immortal slaughtering machine. Ardent Azure Celestial Immortal's combat record and terrifying killer move have killed many late-stage Celestial Immortals. Although the odds for this match are 2 to 1, it's always good to earn more. Tan Xiao smiled and said, Losing is not a big deal. A loss was a loss. In any case, the 3 million crystal essences he had just won was also a win. If I win, I can win 8 million crystal essences at once. Fire Candle hesitated for a while before he forced a smile and said, Forget it. Today I, Fire Candle, will risk my life to accompany you. Since Great Tang Immortal friend said that Cloudmist Celestial Immortal can win, then I'll bet with you. Not far away. Fire Candle's two companions looked disdainful. They didn't know that Fire Candle was so stupid before. Just because of a lucky win, he became so complacent. Such a match. In particular, one of them was Ardent Azure Celestial Immortal, who was known as an immortal slaughtering machine. Yet he actually followed that unknown young man to gamble? Forget it. Winning or losing is someone else's business. Since he wants to taste the taste of losing, then let's not persuade him. I'll bet 2 million immortal crystals. As long as I win, I can earn back my previous losses. I'll also bet 2 million immortal crystals. As long as I win, I'll gain something from this trip. But if I lose, I'll just have to live frugally for the next 100 years and take more risks to earn immortal crystals. After the two of them showed a firm look, they immediately followed Fire Candle and rushed toward the exchange counter. Tan Xiu heard their conversation and couldn't help but secretly shake his head. Although he wasn't 100% sure, 80% was already very high. These two people actually bet more than the last time. It was simply the mentality of desperados. Soon after, the battle inside the convict prison's cage began with countless roars. Cloud Mist Antenna took the lead and directly summoned clouds and mist. The colorful clouds and mist decorated the entire space like a dream. Kill. Ardent Azure Celestial Immortal didn't have the slightest bit of carelessness. He knew that he must go all out in the face of any opponent. Freshwater Celestial Immortal paid a painful price for his arrogance in the last match. This was a bloody example. Time flew by. The two people fought crazily, and this battle lasted for a whole day. The result of this whole day of fighting was that Ardent Azure Celestial Immortal had the upper hand, but he was also riddled with scars. As for Cloud Mist Antenna, one of his arms was cut off, and his clothes were dyed red with blood. It's about time. Tan Xiu stared at the two people fighting, and a thought flashed in his mind. If Cloud Mist Celestial Immortal doesn't have a trick to win, I'm afraid he will lose this match. But if he does, the one who will lose will be Ardent Azure Celestial Immortal. 80%. It was Tan Xiu's bet on Cloud Mist Celestial Immortal's trick to win. This method, he inferred from the data of Cloud Mist Celestial Immortal's previous battles, had an absolute 80% chance. Spirit Freeze. After Cloud Mist Celestial Immortal was sent flying by Ardent Azure Celestial Immortal's sword, he suddenly roared inwardly. At the same time, a transparent golden thread shot out from his left little finger, and instantly entangled Ardent Azure Celestial Immortal who was chasing him. In the next moment, his body stopped flying backward and rushed toward Ardent Azure Celestial Immortal. No one noticed it. Ardent Azure Celestial Immortal's face turned sluggish at this moment, as if his whole body was frozen. This sluggishness lasted for less than a second, but it was in this less than a second that Cloud Mist Celestial Immortal's immortal artifact, Cloud Sail, shot out a beam of light and directly killed Ardent Azure Celestial Immortal. In the auditorium, Tan Xiu turned to look at the dumbfounded Fire Candle and said with a faint smile, "We seem to have won again." Fire Candle turned his head with difficulty. When he saw Tan Xiu's expression, he fiercely raised his fist and waved it a few times in the void. Then he roared in ecstasy, "Great Tang fellow Immortal, you're amazing. 3 chapters have been released. I'm weekly begging for a monthly vote support." Chapter 1288. Tan Xiu had never cared about other people's praises, but seeing Fire Candle's 2 companions in a daze made him secretly feel refreshed. "Those who believe in me shall have eternal life." Tan Xiu had forgotten where he had heard this sentence, but it was so appropriate to use it in this situation. He won 2 rounds in a row. Tan Xiu didn't want to play again, because he knew very well that no one could win forever. He had placed a heavy bet in these 2 rounds, and the convict arena would never let him win too much wealth in the same convict arena. "I'm going to exchange it, and then play somewhere else." Qin Yu hurriedly asked, "Where do you want to go next, honored guest?" "I'm going to the perfected Golden Immortal Convict Arena," said Tan Xiu. "I'll watch the fights between powerhouses when I have nothing to do. It'll be helpful for my cultivation and combat." Qin Yu looked hesitant and said, "Honored guest, you don't need to pay the entrance fee to enter the Golden Immortal Convict Arena. But if you want to enter the perfected Golden Immortal Convict Arena, you'll need to pay a considerable entrance fee." "How much?" asked Tan Xiu curiously. "Everyone needs to pay 100 immortal crystals," said Qin Yu. Tan Xiu nodded lightly and said, "It's just a small amount of money. No need to care about it. Let's go." Having said that, he suddenly turned to look at Fire Candle with a smile on the corner of his mouth and asked, "Do you want to go and play with me? Maybe there'll be a surprise there." Fire Candle hesitated for a moment before nodding and saying, "Since Great Tang Immortal Friend invited me, I'll naturally go." However, after he finished speaking, he saw his 2 companions shake their heads and leave in a hurry without saying a word. His joyful mood gradually calmed down. Tan Xiu glanced at him and walked outside while lightly smiling. Life in this world is full of experiences. It's normal to have friends all over the world along the way. But there's no such thing as a never-ending banquet in this world. Too many friends can only accompany you on your cultivation journey. With the heart of an expert, looking at the road ahead, in the end, the more you walk, the lonelier you get. Tan Xiu's words kept echoing in Fire Candle's mind. Only when Tan Xiu was about to walk out of the big door did Fire Candle secretly let out a sigh of relief, and quickly chased after him. 2 hours later, everyone rode the flying chariot, and came to the perfected Golden Immortal level prison. 2 Golden Immortals were guarding outside the door, and their eyes flashed with surprise when they saw them. One of them said, "Are you sure you want to enter this prison?" "Yes." Tan Xiu nodded slowly, then paid 400 immortal crystals, and stepped into the whirlpool door. The next moment his figure appeared inside the convict prison. "Great Tang immortal friend, here are 100 immortal crystals." Huazhu took out 100 immortal crystals from his interspatial ring, and handed it over to Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu waved his hand casually and said, "Give it to her." Fire Candle turned to Qinyu and looked at her dull eyes. Then he said, "Why don't you take it?" "Ugh." Qinyu's lips squirmed a few times. Finally, she gratefully looked at Tan Xiu, took the 100 immortal crystals, and quickly stuffed them into her interspatial ring. She still needed 40,000 immortal stones, which was equivalent to 400 immortal crystals, for the high-interest loan she owed. Now that she got a reward of 100 immortal crystals at once, it was simply too happy for her. "Thank you, honored guest," Qinyu said gratefully. Tan Xiu smiled faintly and walked toward the iron cages. There were not many iron cages here, only 36 in total, with a total of 36 perfected golden immortals inside. Without exception, these 36 perfected golden immortals all had a blue and white flower mark on their foreheads, which was a symbol of their former enslavement. Honored guest, according to the latest perfected golden immortal level match, there are still 8 hours left in this convict prison. At that time, 2 of the 36 deathmatch gladiators will engage in a brutal fight. You see, there are already many honored guests here. Once they participate in the gamble, the minimum threshold is 1 million immortal crystals. Qinyu was a bit worried. She actually didn't want Tan Xiu to gamble here. After all, she had worked in the convict arena for more than a decade, and it was the first time that an honored guest rewarded her with so many immortal crystals. Tan Xiu nodded with a smile. As he passed by each cage, he would read all the information of each perfected golden immortal gladiator 3 times. The 27th. Tan Xiu stood in front of the iron cage and stopped. Although his expression was extraordinarily calm, his heart was raging with anger. This anger didn't come from the female gladiator in the cage, but from the person who caught the surrounding female gladiators. Star Tears. She was the younger sister of the sovereign of the Rosefinch Holy Sect, Supreme Star Soul, and Tan Xiu's aunt in the immortal world. She was once the true young master of the Rosefinch Holy Sect, the person he hated the most. But Tan Xiu regarded her as a very close person. The reason was very simple. Star Tears was cold-blooded and had taught her nephew, the hedonistic young master of the Rosefinch Holy Sect, a lesson countless times. It was also because of her that the true young master of the Rosefinch Holy Sect left the sect in a fit of pique, and ventured into the Death Swamp alone. One must know that even Immortal Realm experts didn't dare to venture into the Death Swamp easily. But he had gone there and died there, so his body was occupied by Tan Xiu. The first time Tan Xiu met Star Tears, he was beaten up by her, and was even captured by her to her cave residence. He was locked up for 3 months before he was released after his injuries healed. Those 3 months were absolutely painful torture for Tan Xiu. All kinds of cruel training and torture during his serious injuries shaped Tan Xiu's ability to survive in the immortal world. At first, Tan Xiu also hated his aunt Star Tears very much. But when he encountered a life-or-death crisis for the first time, he suddenly understood. It turned out that the reason he was tortured was so that he could live longer in the future. At this moment, Star Tears, her wrists and ankles were shackled by 4 chains made of 10,000-year-old mysterious iron. Her coarse hemp clothes were tattered and stained with blood. Even her long purple hair was unkempt and messy. Tan Xiu also keenly noticed that there was a ghastly bloody wound on her left shoulder. He could clearly see the bones inside. Black devil miasma? Tan Xiao took a deep breath. The black devil miasma could corrode the immortal body and prevent immortal force from nourishing and healing wounds. Moreover, it could bring great pain to the injured. Qin Yu, go find the steward here. Qin Yu didn't know what Tan Xiao was going to do, but she still left obediently. In just half an hour, she came back with 5 figures. The leading figure was a white-haired old man. The aura he exuded indicated that he was a perfected golden immortal. Are you the steward here? Tan Xiao didn't wait for the other party to introduce himself, and asked indifferently. This old man is the steward of this convict arena, said the old man with a smile. A distinguished guest has come to visit, and even ordered the attendant to find me. Is there something important? Tan Xiao pointed to the expressionless star tears in the iron cage and lightly said, the people under me are too poor, so I'm going to buy some perfected golden immortals to run errands. She has a good record and she's a woman, so I'll buy her. The old man was surprised and smilingly said, no problem. The gladiators of our convict arena have a clearly marked price. She's not bad here and is worth 12 million crystal essences. May I ask if little friend is going to pay the crystal essences directly? Or do you want to offset it with treasures? Tan Xiao originally only had 10 million crystal essences. Now that he had won 7 million crystal essences, he directly took out 12 million crystal essences and handed it to the old man, saying, count it and hand her over. A glint flashed in the old man's eyes. After counting it, he took out a soul plate from his interspatial ring, and turned his head. Let her out. Inside the iron cage, Star Tear's cold expression was a bit moved, and a trace of emotion appeared in her expressionless eyes. She had been captured and brought here for more than 600 years. Even though she had concealed her identity and no one knew her true identity, she had experienced more than 200 battles in these 600 years. If it wasn't for the fact that she was forced to surrender during the battles, she would have died long ago. Before, she still had the hope that someone would buy her. But the price was too high, which eventually made her gradually disappointed, and eventually turned into despair. Countless times, she had thought of ending her life, but she remembered that her sect was still in crisis and that she hadn't taken revenge for this blood feud, so she kept on living again and again. A perfected golden immortal could surrender 3 times, and she had already used up the 3 chances to surrender, except for the 4 times where both sides suffered heavy losses. The convict arena's experts unlocked the dark steel chains. Under the berating of several experts, she staggered to the iron cage's entrance and looked at Tan Xiao's appearance. She vaguely felt that he was familiar, as though she had seen him somewhere before. However, this wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was that Tan Xiao's aura was also a bit familiar. Who is he? An ant who just broke through to the immortal stage not long ago? Star Tears searched the memories in her mind, but she still couldn't recall where she had seen this familiar young man. The old man in charge of the convict arena looked at Tan Xiao and lightly smiled. Fellow immortal, this deathmatch gladiator will be yours in the future. Please don't hesitate to look for me if you need anything in this regard in the future. I'll give you some discounts considering you're a regular customer. All right. Tan Xiao nodded lightly. He suppressed the excitement in his heart and didn't greet Star Tears. Instead, he continued to walk toward the iron cage in the back. After reading all the information about the perfected golden immortal gladiators, he went to the back of the auditorium. From beginning to end, Tan Xiao didn't say a word to Star Tears. He didn't even look at her. He only allowed her to quietly follow by his side, acting as a guardian. Great Tang immortal friend, you're really strong. Fire Candle had been following Tan Xiao all this time, and witnessed Tan Xiao taking out 12 million crystal essences to buy a perfected golden immortal gladiator. His attitude had changed dramatically compared to before. Chapter 1289. Tan Xiao didn't seem to hear Fire Candle's compliments. The scenes in his mind quickly changed. All of them were the scenes of him getting along with Star Tears. If there was anyone he could trust in the immortal world, then Star Tears was definitely one of them. However, he couldn't reveal his identity. Even if he trusted Star Tears 100%, He also knew that there was a method in the immortal world to search the memories of others. If those terrifying enemies were to attack Star Tears, there was a high chance that he would be found after searching her memories. Furthermore, through his encounter with Star Tears, Tan Xiu also realized one thing. The current situation of the Rosefinch Holy Sect was probably very bad. It was very likely that there were a lot of disciples of the Rosefinch Holy Sect in the convict arena or some other place, as well as people he cared about. And these people were likely facing great tribulations and the threat of death. I have time. I still have a lot of time. But the Rosefinch Holy Sect doesn't have much time. And they don't have much time for the people they care about. Tan Xiu clenched his fists and a cold light gradually emerged in his eyes. After a long time, he loosened his clenched fists and suppressed all the past memories in the deepest part of his heart. Fire Candle, I suddenly remembered that there's still one more important thing to do. Therefore, I can't take you here to play. Before parting, I'll give you some words. Tan Xiu stood up and turned to look at Fire Candle. What words? Fire Candle was confused. Never have the heart to harm others, but never have the heart to guard against others, said Tan Xiu. If you want to live longer, beware of everyone, even those closest to you. Fire Candle's brows tightly furrowed as he silently pondered over Tan Xiu's words. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that it made sense. When he looked up again, he found that Tan Xiu had already left. I'll keep it in mind, thank you. Fire Candle took a deep breath and said in her heart. Inside the wide corridor, Tan Xiu glanced at both ends. Although there were some people passing by, he still looked at Qin Yu and lightly said, if I remember correctly, the convict arena has a special place to purchase goods. Take me there. Qin Yu nodded and said, honored guest, please follow me. Pawn shop. Under Qin Yu's lead, Tan Xiu arrived at the place where the convict arena specialized in purchasing goods. He looked straight at the attendant who came to greet him and lightly said, take me to your VIP lounge and inform your auction house master that a distinguished guest has arrived. Yes. The attendant respectfully took Tan Xiu to the VIP lounge on the second floor. Just as Tan Xiu took a seat, an old man in a cyan robe walked in with a smile. His eyes swept over the several people and immediately froze when he saw Star Tears. Then he suppressed his surprise and came before Tan Xiu and smilingly said, honored guest, are you looking for me? Tan Xiu waved his right hand and motioned the other party to sit down opposite him. Then he said, I'm going to sell an ancient immortal cultivation manual and the pill formula for refining the primordial chaos Dao pill. After saying that, he took out the ancient manual and the pill formula from his interspatial ring and put them on the table in front of him. The green-robed old man's expression changed. When he quickly flipped through the ancient book and the primordial Dao pill's pill formula, his eyes revealed a shocked expression. After a long while he slowly said, esteemed customer, the two items you want to sell are truly too valuable. I don't dare to make a decision on the price, so please wait a moment. I'll inform the manager to come over. All right. Tan Xiu calmly nodded. Soon after, the old steward hurried over. After he checked the immortal cultivation scriptures and the pill recipes for refining the primordial Dao pill, he looked at Tan Xiu and said, fellow immortal, do you want to sell them directly? Or do you want to exchange them for something? Tan Xiu thought for a while and asked, how many perfected golden immortal gladiators do you think I can exchange them for? The old man slightly furrowed his brows and pondered. After a long while he slowly said, 2 perfected golden immortal gladiators and 5 million crystal essences. What do you think? 2 mid-level perfected golden immortal gladiators and 8 million crystal essences, said Tan Xiu. If you agree, I'll give you the contents of the ancient manual and the pill formula. No problem. The old man weighed it and finally nodded. 8 hours later, Tan Xiu appeared at the exit of the convict arena with Battle Peng, Star Tears, and 2 other mid-level perfected golden immortals. He didn't rush to leave and instead waited for his 4 golden immortal subordinates to return before he asked with a faint smile, how's the harvest? It's all here, master. The 4 took out their interspatial rings and handed them to Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu's spiritual sense swept through the interspatial rings and immediately looked surprised. You got a good harvest, huh? You actually won more than 80 million immortal crystals? The four smiled and one of them respectfully said, "We know the convict arena too well, and have some experience in judging and choosing." Tan Xiao faintly smiled, and threw 2 million immortal crystals to each of them, and 1 million immortal crystals to Battle Peng. Only then did he put away the rest and lightly said, "We've been out for some time now, so we should go back." Having said that, he turned to look at Qin Yu, who was standing a kilometer away like a delicate lotus. He flicked his finger, and an interspatial ring fell into her hand. Immediately after, a group of 9 people stepped out of the convict arena's gate. Qin Yu stared blankly at the interspatial ring that appeared in her hand. When she looked up and looked in the direction of Tan Xiao again, she found that he had already disappeared. After hesitating for a while, she used her spiritual sense to look inside the interspatial ring. When she clearly saw what was inside, her delicate body slightly trembled and her eyes sparkled. 10,000 immortal crystals. It was an ancient cultivation manual. When Qin Yu took out the cultivation manual and flipped it open, a look of disbelief appeared on her beautiful face. An immortal cultivation manual? An immortal cultivation manual that can allow one to cultivate to the perfected golden immortal stage? Qin Yu's delicate body slightly trembled, and 2 lines of tears rolled down her cheeks. She was a bit disappointed when she saw Tan Xiao for the first time. However, after just a short time together, the benefits she got were more than what she got after working here for more than a decade. "Thank you, benefactor." Qin Yu raised her arm and wiped the tears on her face as she muttered to herself, "Oh, are you very disappointed? Did you get humiliated? You're crying so sadly. Don't tell me you didn't even get an immortal stone as a reward for being a guide?" Wenwen strode forward with a mocking smile on her face, and silently came to Qin Yu's side. Qin Yu hurriedly put the cultivation manual into the interspatial ring, and turned to look at Wenwen. "You guessed wrong. Not only did I get a reward, but it's also more than you can imagine." After saying that, she went straight to the gate of the convict arena to pay off the high-interest loan. She also made a decision at this moment to quit her job in the convict arena, and go to the outside world to work hard, hoping that she would be qualified to see her benefactor again in the future. Hessian Castle. After Tan Xiao led everyone back to the stargazing pavilion, he went straight to the heavenly abode artifact with Guyan Looking at Guyan strange expression, Tan Xiao slowly said, "Yen'er, what did you find out about the 3 perfected golden immortals I just brought back?" Guyan's lips squirmed a few times before she answered, "Aunt Blackface." "You're right, it's Aunt Star Tears," said Tan Xiao bitterly. "By chance, I found Aunt Star Tears in the perfected golden immortal cage in the convict arena of the perfected golden immortal realm. He even spent money to buy her." "Did you tell her your identity?" asked Guyan hurriedly. "No." Tan Xiao shook his head. "Not only did I not tell her my identity, but I also have her soul plate. I didn't even say a word to her from beginning to end." Guyan's tense expression relaxed a bit and she curiously asked, "Are you afraid, master?" "Yeah, I'm afraid." Tan Xiao forced a smile. "I'm afraid that she'll find out my true identity if I talk to her." Yen. Although my previous appearance is somewhat different from my current appearance, those who are really familiar with me may be able to guess it. So, Master, there are no more than 20 people in the entire immortal world who can connect the current you with the past you. Guyan shook her head. Me heard the 2 enemies, Grandpa and Grandma. And then there are the 9 of them. There are more than a dozen of them. Tan Xiao shook his head. "Even if there are such people in the vast immortal world, they can only guess your identity," said Guyan. Take Aunt Blackface for example. I just observed her, and she doesn't seem to be able to recognize your identity. "What should I do, Yin?" Tan Xiao nodded. "Should I directly return the soul plate to her, and let her leave immediately? Or should I hide it from her and let her stay with us?" After thinking for a long time, Guyan slowly said, "Grand Master, I think it's better to hide it from her and let her stay with us. After all, she's a perfected golden immortal. If we return the soul plate to her, but she doesn't want to leave and wants to figure out your identity, it'll be troublesome. Further, Aunt Blackface is the younger sister of the Rosefinch Holy Sex Sect Master. With such an identity, she actually fell to become a deathmatch gladiator in the convict arena, which means that it'll be dangerous for her to leave alone. Since you're back, then take her with you. On one hand, she can help us do things, and on the other hand, she can also ensure her safety. Have you ever thought that only a few people know her identity, but our enemies know her? Tan Xiu said. In case, just change your appearance, said Gu Yan'er. Tan Xiu gave it a thought and felt that it made sense, so he nodded and said, It seems that it's the only way. Yan'er Anti-Star Tier's identity must not be revealed to anyone except the two of us and the 9 of them. Also, tell the 9 of them not to show any flaws in front of Anti-Star Tiers. Chapter 1290. When Tan Xiu and Gu Yan'er came out of the Heavenly Abode artifact, Tan Xiu brought the 2 mid-stage perfected golden immortals into the artifact. Looking at their indifferent expressions, Tan Xiu slowly took out a cigarette, lit it, and took a puff. Then he said, Do you two think that I'm inferior to an ant just because I'm only an ordinary immortal? I dare not. Their lives were in Tan Xiu's hands, so they still shook their heads despite having such thoughts in their hearts. I don't like subordinates who only agree on the surface but oppose on the inside, said Tang Xiu lightly. What's more, I don't like subordinates who speak insincere. You just need to answer me truthfully, don't you? Understood. Zenith Venerable and Seaway Monarch answered at the same time. Tan Xiu nodded with satisfaction and said, Then you two answer my question. How long has it taken you to embark on the path of cultivation until now? 6,432 years, answered Zenith Venerable. 5,320 years, answered Seaway Monarch. Tang Xiu asked again, With your memories, do you still remember how long it took for you to become an immortal from the time you set foot on the path of cultivation? Tell me. Zenith Venerable and Seaway Monarch exchanged glances. They faintly realized what Tan Xiu wanted to say and immediately sneered inwardly. They were once peerless geniuses of their respective immortal domains, and their cultivation speed was countless times faster than others. This subordinate took 423 years, answered Zenith Venerable. This subordinate took 399 years, answered Seaway Monarch. It's not bad. Tan Xiu nodded. But do you know how long it has been since I embarked on the path of cultivation? Both shook their heads at the same time. I'm not even 30 years old yet, said Tan Xiu indifferently. What? Disbelief was written all over their faces as they exclaimed at the same time. They were all Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals, and their willpower was already very heaven-defying. But they were still frightened by Tan Xiu's words. This was because they had never heard of anyone who could cultivate from immortal to the immortal realm in less than 30 years. Even the supreme martial artists of the past had not been able to do it. Even those who became immortals within 100 years could only be counted on one hand, right? Tan Xiu said indifferently. You don't need to be shocked, and you don't need to suspect that I have a noble bloodline. I'm just an ordinary person. It hasn't even been 30 years since I was born, and I've already become an immortal. Now you should understand what I want to say, right? Zenith Venerable and Seaway Monarch glanced at each other again. Although they still found it hard to believe, their attitudes had greatly changed. With a hint of respect, they said, We understand. Master, your aptitude is heaven-defying, more terrifying than any peerless genius in the past. In time, I believe Master will become even stronger and cultivate even faster. It's good that you understand, Tan Xiu said with a faint smile. So the reason why I'm talking to you today is to tell you that if you do your best to serve me, I'll return your freedom to you as long as you serve me for 5,000 years. 5,000 years. Both of them smiled bitterly at the same time. They were already very old now, so who could guarantee that they could live for another 5,000 years? Tan Xiu said lightly, I'll provide you with a lot of cultivation resources during these 5,000 years. Similarly, I won't restrict your freedom too much. Although your lives are under my control, I'll give you the respect you deserve during these 5,000 years. I can even give you a very high status, even if you become the imperial protector of my Great Tang Empire. The Great Tang Empire? Both of them looked confused at the same time. Tan Xiao said lightly, "To tell you the truth, I've just led my people to the immortal world using a special method. The population of the entire Great Tang Empire is very small. Only about 200,000 people so far." "We agree." Both of them agreed, but they smiled bitterly inwardly. An empire with more than 200,000 people was something they really couldn't complain about. Even if it was an ordinary human country, wouldn't it have a population of more than 10 million people? Just 200,000 people. Yet they still dared to call it an empire? Suddenly, both of them realized a problem. Since the master in front of them had just arrived in the immortal world, where did he get so much wealth? It must be noted that he had bought 3 perfected golden immortal gladiators at once this time. "Can I ask you a question, master?" Siwei Monarch hesitated for a moment and asked carefully. "Ask away," Tan Xiao said. "Do you have a lot of immortal stones or immortal crystals in your original pocket world? Crystal essences? Otherwise, where did you get so much wealth to buy us out of the convict arena? What kind of place is the convict arena?" Tan Xiao said with a faint smile. "It's a place where guests can gamble. If I can buy you out of the convict arena, why can't I win a lot of wealth in the convict arena?" Hiss! Both of them gasped, and the shock in their hearts reached an unimaginable level. Even if they were perfected golden immortals, it would be very difficult for them to win hundreds of millions of immortal crystals from the convict arena. After all, winning every time required not only terrifying vision, but also heaven-defying luck. Tan Xiao took out 2 million crystal essences from his interspatial ring and handed them over to them, saying, "I'll give you 2 a mission. Kill an enemy who has just become a perfected golden immortal. Remember, don't expose your identity and immediately withdraw after you kill him." "Who's the enemy?" asked Siwei Monarch. "He's Hongwu Yelong, the patriarch of the Yelong clan," said Tan Xiao. "He lives in this immortal domain in Hessen Castle." "We'll definitely complete the mission," said Siwei Monarch respectfully. "Remember, you'll only have a short time to act." Tan Xiao said, "Since Hongwu Yelong knows 9 Nether Swordmeister, you must have heard his name. He's in Hessen Castle and has a good friendship with Hongwu Yelong. That's why you must act like a thunderbolt and retreat before 9 Nether Swordmeister gets the news." "Understood." The 2 respectfully nodded, and were sent out of the heavenly abode artifact by Tan Xiao. Tan Xiao took a deep breath. When he came out of the heavenly abode artifact, he saw Gu Yan quietly sipping tea, and Star Tears standing quietly in the room with an indifferent expression. "Come with me." Tan Xiao opened the heavenly abode artifact and took Star Tears inside. Star Tears quietly observed Tan Xiao and calmly asked, "What's your order, master?" Tan Xiao took out 2 million crystal essences and put them into an interspatial ring. He then threw them to her and said, "You don't need to call me master from now on. My name is Great Tang Heavenly Emperor, but you can call me Your Majesty." "Great Tang Heavenly Emperor? Your Majesty?" Star Tears looked a bit confused and slowly nodded. "I'm the Emperor of the Great Tang Empire," said Tan Xiao. "Although my empire has no territory and only has a population of about 200,000 people, you'll be the Great Tang Empire's protector from now on. But from now on, you are the Great Tang Empire's protector of the earth, and I will provide you with all the cultivation resources you need. You only need to promise me 3 things." "Speak." Star Tears nodded slightly. "The first thing is that you must change your appearance from now on and never meet people with this face," said Tan Xiao. "If you want to know the reason, I can tell you that I'm too weak to protect my subordinates at the perfected golden immortal stage. You've become a deathmatch gladiator in the convict arena, so you must have a very powerful enemy. I don't want to be implicated because of you." "I understand." Star Tears nodded silently. Her facial muscles twitched, and she quickly changed her appearance. Even those who were very close to her wouldn't be able to recognize her true identity now. "The second thing is that you must obey my orders unconditionally from now on," said Tan Xiao again. "I won't deliberately send you to your death, and I'll also give you very loose freedom and respect. But you must temporarily put aside all your past and serve me wholeheartedly." "Do I have to restrain myself if I encounter my enemy?" asked Star Tears. "That's right. Even if you encounter your enemy, you must restrain yourself and not reveal even the slightest trace, said Tan Xiao. Of course, you can tell me and I'll act according to the situation. If you can deal with the enemy and won't bring me any trouble, I don't mind letting you do it. I'll even send someone to help you. Star Tear's eyes lit up and asked in a deep voice, Are you serious? Yes, replied Tan Xiao firmly. I promise you. Star Tears nodded heavily. I haven't thought about the third thing yet, said Tan Xiao with satisfaction. I'll tell you when I've thought about it. You can cultivate in this heavenly abode artifact for the time being. If you have nothing to do, you can help me train the Great Tang Empire's warriors in this artifact. All right. Star Tears nodded. Tan Xiao hesitated for a moment. He looked at the glimmer of vitality in Star Tears' eyes and slowly said, Since we're on the same side in the future, I, Tan Xiao, will return your freedom once I become a powerhouse on par with you. I'll respect your decision whether you want to stay or leave when the time comes. Star Tears' expression drastically changed and disbelief filled her eyes. She quickly retreated a few steps and asked with a trembling voice, What did you say your name was? Great Tang Heavenly Emperor Tan Xiao, said Tan Xiao lightly. Star Tears stared at Tan Xiao's face for a long time. Then she shook her head and said, No, you're not him. I can tell that your appearance hasn't changed at all. But why do I sense a familiar aura on you? Why? I may have guessed who you're talking about, said Tan Xiao calmly. I bought a Catwoman in the convict arena some time ago, and she also said that I have a familiar aura on me. Star Tears clenched her fists and asked in a deep voice, Is she a chinchilla? That's right. Tan Xiao nodded. Where is she? Asked Star Tears hurriedly. Can I see her now? Tan Xiao quickly sent a voice transmission to Catwoman. After explaining something to her, he called her over and lightly said, Catwoman, you should know her, right? The third chapter is over. Please vote for me. Chapter 1291. Catgirl looked at Star Tears and immediately looked pleasantly surprised. She hurriedly called out, Aunt Blackface. No. Are you Auntie Star Tears? Star Tears was greatly shocked. She reached out to hug Catgirl and excitedly said, It's really you, Kitty? You're still alive? Suppressing her excitement, Catgirl nodded repeatedly and said, I'm still alive, Auntie Star Tears. It's great to see you again. Star Tears patted Catgirl's back. Suddenly, she stepped back and asked in a deep voice, Catgirl, you're most familiar with his aura. Who is this man in front of us? Catgirl quickly calmed down and recalled Tan Xiao's order. Then she said, He's Great Tang Heavenly Emperor, the Emperor of the Great Tang Empire and also my savior, Auntie Star Tears. I felt that his aura was very familiar at first, but he's not. Star Tears looked disappointed and bitterly said, That's right. He's not. It would be great if he were still alive. Tan Xiao listened to the two women's words and suppressed the excitement in his heart. Then he lightly said, I don't care who you're talking about, but you must remember that you're the people of my Great Tang Empire from now on. I've saved you, so you must draw a line with your past for now. Understood. Catgirl and Star Tears nodded at the same time. After coming out of the heavenly abode artifact, Tan Xiao secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He handed an interspatial ring to Gu Yenner and said, I'll only keep 1 million crystal essences, 1 million immortal crystals, and 1 million immortal stones. As for the rest of the crystal essences, immortal crystals and immortal stones, give them all to Xiao Shui. Also, the battle between 9 Nether Swordmeister and Venerable Netherworld is about to begin. After all the members come back, make them practice battle formations diligently. The individual strength of the 4 major legions of our Great Tang Empire is too weak. Only by arranging battle formations can we enhance our combat effectiveness. I'll arrange it. Gu Yenner nodded. Tan Xiao let out a faint smile. He was very confident in Gu Yenner's ability. Shortly after, Tan Xiao arrived at the Ink Pot residence, where 9 Nether Swordmeister was temporarily staying. However, as soon as he arrived at the door, he was stopped by the guards outside. This kind of obstruction was not targeted at Tan Xiao, because there were hundreds of visitors outside the mansion, and all of them were blocked outside. My sword saint won't be seeing any outsiders recently. If you don't have anything important, please leave. The guard at the Golden Celestial stage said coldly as he glanced at Tan Xiao and Battle Peng. Go inform Nine Nether Swordmeister that the Great Tang Heavenly Emperor is visiting. He'll meet me, Tan Xiao said with a faint smile. A look of surprise flashed across the Golden Immortal Guard's eyes. The guards had already been informed that there were more than a dozen visitors, and they could enter without notifying them. One of them was the Great Tang Heavenly Emperor. Instantly, the Golden Immortal Guard showed a bit of respect and said, "Ah, so you're Great Tang Heavenly Emperor. I didn't know you just now, so I hope you won't take offense. My Swordmeister told me that you can go directly to see him if you come." Tan Xiao smiled faintly and walked into the mansion with Battle Peng amidst the surprised expressions of the people around. Under the guidance of the attendants inside, Tan Xiao quickly saw Nine Nether Swordmeister. Moreover, Tan Xiao didn't see only Nine Nether Swordmeister, but also a burly man with blonde hair. He had an aquiline nose, sword-like eyebrows and a big mouth. He looked a bit ugly, but he exuded an imposing aura. What surprised Tan Xiao the most was that although this man was sitting face to face with Nine Nether Swordmeister, he was emanating a murderous aura. Did I come at the wrong time? Tan Xiao sized up the man a few times. Although he said so, he went straight to the chair next to the two men and sat down. He then took out a cigarette and lit it. If it were before, Tan Xiao wouldn't have done this. After all, his strength was still too weak. But with a great expert like Star Tears in his heavenly abode artifact, he didn't need to be too afraid. Nine Nether Swordmeister wore a strange expression and coughed twice. Then he lightly smiled and said, "You really came at the wrong time, Great Tang Lil Bro. Do you see this guy coming to look for trouble with me? Maybe we'll have to kill each other later." Tan Xiao's expression shifted, and he immediately chuckled. "If my guess is correct, you're Venerable Netherworld, aren't you? A perfected golden immortal whose cultivation is probably a level higher than yours, Brother Nine Nether." Venerable Netherworld indifferently glanced at Tan Xiao and coldly snorted. Where the hell did you come from? Do you think a puny ant like you has the right to sit here?" With that said, an aura burst out of his body and pressed down on Tan Xiao. Battle Peng's expression slightly changed, and he instantly blocked in front of Tan Xiao. He let out a muffled groan and his body shook a few times. A wisp of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, but he still persisted. "What a loyal dog. You're actually not afraid of death." Venerable Netherworld sneered. Tan Xiao shook his head and sighed. It seems the immortal world is really cruel. Only the strong are respected. In the next moment, Star Tears suddenly appeared next to Tan Xiao out of the blue. A chilling light burst out from her eyes and monstrous killing intent was instantly released. She shielded Battle Peng and Tan Xiao behind her, and coldly glared at Venerable Netherworld. A perfected golden immortal? Venerable Netherworld's expression changed and dread could be seen in his eyes. He could sense the surging aura coming from Star Tears, and it was no weaker than his own. "No wonder you're so arrogant. It turns out you have a perfected golden immortal guarding you." Upon seeing that Venerable Netherworld retracted his aura, Tan Xiao immediately waved to Star Tears, motioning her to move to the side. Then he lightly smiled and said, "There's a saying in the world I used to live in. Don't do porcelain work if you don't have a diamond. It means that you can't be arrogant if you don't have the capital to protect yourself." A glint flashed in Nine Nether Swordmeister's eyes. He didn't expect that Tan Xiao would have a perfected golden immortal at his side. Now he was even more curious about Tan Xiao's identity. "How should I address you, fellow immortal?" Nine Nether Swordmeister looked at Star Tears and asked. Star Tears just glanced at him indifferently and didn't bother to answer him. He just looked at his nose and his nose looked at his heart, remaining silent. "She's the gladiator I just bought from the convict arena, Brother Nine Nether." Tan Xiao lightly smiled. "You don't need to care about her identity. But this Venerable Netherworld seems to be your enemy, no? How come you're sitting together? Or do you want me to help you solve the enmity between yourselves?" "I can't wait to kill him, and he can't wait to kill me." Nine Nether Swordmeister shook his head and smilingly said, but we're still brothers who love each other on the surface, so it's not like we can't sit down. I feel ashamed to have a brother like you. Venerable Netherworld sneered. Do you think I don't feel the same way? Nine Nether Swordmeister angrily shouted. A strange expression appeared on Tan Xiu's face. He couldn't imagine that these two were brothers. The difference in appearance was too big. Shaking his head, Tan Xiu sighed and said, it turns out that you're brothers. Alas, why the need to fight and kill each other since you're brothers? It's just like the saying that we're born from the same root, so why the rush to torture each other? Huh? What? Both of them frowned at the same time, recalling Tan Xiu's words about us being born from the same root. So why the rush to torture each other? After just a quarter of an hour, the way they looked at Tan Xiu had changed a bit. I still have something to do. See you in the convict arena. Venerable Netherworld coldly got up and instantly disappeared. Nine Nether Swordmeister looked at the place where Venerable Netherworld disappeared with a complicated expression in his eyes. He then shook his head and forced a smile. Great Tang Lil Bro, I found that you're really different from others when it comes to looking at problems. I can't seem to match your state of mind. Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, you're a perfected golden immortal, brother Nine Nether. You don't need to flatter me like that, do you? I'm not flattering you. I'm speaking from the bottom of my heart. Nine Nether Swordmeister shook his head. Alright, let's not talk about these boring issues. Is there something you need from me this time? It's nothing important. I just want to play a game of chess with you, brother Nine Nether. Tan Xiu lightly smiled. Just a game of chess? Nine Nether Swordmeister asked with a strange expression. Of course. Just a game of chess. Tan Xiu nodded and smilingly said. Nine Nether Swordmeister shook his head and couldn't help but laugh. He casually placed a chessboard on the small round table in front of him and lightly smiled. Great Tanglo bro, you should know how to play fairy chess, right? I do. Tan Xiu smiled and said, what I hate the most when I play this kind of chess is when my opponent gives up halfway, so I hope brother Nine Nether will go all out. So I hope that old brother Nine Nether will give it your all. You can only go and do other things if you defeat me with your true abilities. Nine Nether Swordmeister's expression shifted, and he faintly felt that Tan Xiu's words had a hidden meaning. However, he had nothing to do at the moment, so he nodded and said, all right, let's begin then. All right. Fairy chess was more or less the same as Go. The two of them frequently placed their pieces, causing the number of pieces on the chessboard to increase, and the fight to become fiercer. Just as the two of them reached the most intense and critical moment, Nine Nether Swordmeister's complexion suddenly changed, and he reached out to grab a streak of light. Save me, brother Nine Nether. Nine Nether Swordmeister suddenly got up and stared fixedly at Tan Xiu, saying in a deep voice, Great Tanglo bro, you're already in trouble now, brother Nine Nether, so why bother poking your nose into other people's business? Tan Xiu lightly smiled. Besides, I'm afraid it'll be too late even if you rush over now. It's better for us to finish this game in peace. Nine Nether Swordmeister frowned and asked. You obviously spared him back then, Great Tanglo bro. Why did you still? Tan Xiu raised his hand to interrupt Nine Nether Swordmeister and said, I spared his life back then for your sake, brother Nine Nether. But he deserves to die now, so I naturally have a reason to kill him. Brother Nine Nether, this great Tang Heavenly Emperor always treats my brothers and friends with sincerity, but I'll never spare those who deserve to die. Great Tang Lil Bro, he and I. Nine Nether Swordmeister forced a smile. It's too late, said Tan Xiu. Nine Nether Swordmeister was silent for a long time and finally sighed. Even if it's too late, I still need to go there. I don't want to let my friend down. I'm sorry, Great Tanglo bro. Chapter 1292. Tan Xiu quietly watched Nine Nether Swordmeister's back as he left. There was a bit of appreciation in his eyes, but it was more of a pity. Perhaps it was a freak accident or a coincidence, but Tan Xiu decided not to meddle in Nine Nether Swordmeister's muddy water again. Alright, let's get moving. Tan Xiu stood up and let Star Tears return to the Heavenly Abode artifact. Then he left the Inkpot Mansion with Battle Pung. When he returned to the Stargazing Pavilion, He immediately issued an order. All members of the Great Tang Empire who were outside were to return immediately. 2 days later, all members of the Great Tang Empire returned, including Siwei Monarch and Zenith Venerable, who went to the Yelong clan to kill Hongwu. Except for Battle Peng and Gu Yenner who stayed outside, everyone else entered the Heavenly Abode artifact and disappeared from the Stargazing Pavilion. Tan Xiao knew that Nine Nether Swordmeister had already learned about his departure. Nine Nether Swordmeister probably already knew that he was leaving with his men. It was even possible that Nine Nether Swordmeister was hiding somewhere and watching them leave. Exalted Immortal Domain. When Tan Xiao stepped out of the spatial teleportation array and looked around, a bit of killing intent flashed in his eyes. He didn't care about the immortal soldiers stationed here and quickly left with Gu Yen'er and Battle Peng. We seem to have gone the wrong way, Master. After flying for half a day, Gu Yen'er looked around and said, "We didn't go the wrong way. I'm going to stroll around the exalted immortal domain. After all, this is a large and prosperous immortal domain. I don't know how long I'll have to wait to return here." Tan Xiao said lightly, "I hope I can find some good things here before I leave." A suspicious look flashed in Gu Yen'er's eyes and she asked with a voice transmission, "What do you mean, Master?" Tan Xiao also replied with a voice transmission, "We just returned to the immortal world not long ago, yet we met Catwoman and Anti-Star Tears. This means that there are still many people who used to be close to them scattered all over the immortal world. They're probably in a precarious situation now, so we might as well waste some time on the road since we're in a hurry, and try to find those who need our help." Gu Yen'er hurriedly asked, "What happens after we find it?" Tan Xiao lightly said, "Unless it's someone close to us, even if we find some, we just need to help them in a seemingly convenient manner. We won't take them away, nor will we expose our identities." Gu Yen'er asked, "Do your best and leave the rest to fate?" "Yes." Tan Xiao nodded without a trace. In the following 3 months, Tan Xiao took Gu Yen'er and Battle Peng to every continent in the Great Firmament Immortal Domain. They visited all the prosperous cities, but aside from purchasing a large number of cultivation resources, they didn't find any acquaintances. Therefore, the trio once again set out on a journey, passing through one immortal domain after another. Along the way, they met some people from the Rosefinch Holy Sect, as well as some of his former subordinates. In short, Tan Xiao thoroughly found out about those who defected to the enemy and those who persecuted him after he was murdered. He even inquired about the current situation of the Rosefinch Holy Sect. It was miserable. The Vermilion Bird Holy Sect was in a miserable state right now. They were completely holed up in the land of the sect, relying on the 2 supreme being powerhouses of the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect and the protection of the sect's great protective array. In addition, some of Tan Xiao's loyal subordinates joined the Rosefinch Holy Sect and fought side by side with the Rosefinch Holy Sect, while others hid in various parts of the immortal world, fighting their own battles. The Greenwood Immortal Domain. For snow-white cloud-piercing beasts were pulling a golden chariot, hurrying on with their journey. 2 figures were sitting cross-legged on the golden chariot, in a state of cultivation. Beside them was a burly man, holding a long spear, coldly observing the surroundings. They were Tan Xiao and Gu Yen'er, as well as Battle Peng, who was in charge of guarding. 80% of the Greenwood Immortal Domain's landmass was made up of lush and verdant mountains and forests. Aside from the small cities, there were only seas and lakes. The Greenwood Immortal Domain was inhabited by the forest elves, who advocated peace. Especially on this largest landmass, it was the headquarters of dozens of branches of the forest elves. Rumble. A terrifying aura erupted from the distance of the golden chariot. Tan Xiao and Gu Yen'er instantly opened their eyes and looked surprised as they glanced in that direction. Tan Xiao frowned and asked, "What happened? My eyesight can't see that far." "I can't see it either." Gu Yen'er shook her head. Battle Peng didn't speak, but there was a trace of confusion on his face, indicating that he didn't know what happened. Tan Xiao hesitated for a moment and said, "It's a fight that took place in our line of sight, yet we can sense its aura. That means it's at least a fight between perfected golden immortals. Let's go and have a look." Battle Peng slightly nodded and shouted to the 4 cloud-piercing beasts, "Speed up." The 4 cloud-piercing beasts were all immortal beasts, each of which was comparable to an ordinary immortal, and could be considered as powerful. Coupled with the fact that this golden chariot was an immortal artifact, it was very expensive. If it weren't for Tan Xiu finding a treasure in some immortal domain, and selling it for immortal crystals, he wouldn't have been willing to buy it. A few minutes later, the scene of a fight appeared in the sights of the trio. Above the dense mountain forest, dozens of forest elves were being attacked by 4 strong men. The Dragon Clan. Tan Xiu and Gu Yan exchanged glances and looked confused. The forest elves and the Dragon Clan had always been on good terms. The Supremacy Stage powerhouse of the forest elves, and the Dragon Clan's Supremacy Stage patriarch, were best friends in the entire immortal world. It was truly a rare sight to encounter a fight between the forest elves and the Dragon Clan now. At the same time, the 2 sides also noticed the approaching Tan Xiu's group. The 4 big men from the Dragon Clan immediately blasted away the dozens of forest elves, and their bodies transformed. In the blink of an eye, they revealed their true forms, which were 4 giant dragons that were about 300 meters long and shimmering with silver light. Sindoya, hand over the luminous immortal mirror, and we'll spare your lives. Else, we'll slaughter all of you even if there are outsiders present. One of the silver dragons spoke in human language with a monstrous killing aura. The forest elves were obviously in a state of being suppressed, and many of them had ghastly wounds on their bodies. Upon hearing the silver dragon's words, the tall and slender forest elf surrounded by dozens of people paced a few steps forward and coldly said, "The luminous immortal mirror is the guardian artifact of my blood elf clan. We won't give it to you even if you kill all my blood elf clan. Ao Xiang, you're an elder of the Dragon Clan, yet you dare to rob my blood elf clan's guardian artifact? Do you really want to provoke a war between our 2 clans?" The silver dragon called Ao Xiang sneered and said, "Your blood elf clan alone can't cause a war between our 2 clans. Further, the number of your blood elf clan is getting fewer and fewer. If my guess is correct, the number of your blood elf clan should be no more than 100 now, right? It's a complete waste to leave the luminous immortal mirror in your clan. You might as well give it to me and use it to please the violet elf imperial princess." Sindoya glared at Ao Xiang with hatred and angrily said, "My blood elf clan used to have a large population, and was the strongest branch of the entire forest elven clan apart from the imperial family. Did you forget that your Dragon Clan kept flattering us at that time? Bullying the weak and fearing the strong? Is this the nature of your Dragon Clan?" Ao Xiang was infuriated by Sindoya's words. His huge head instantly aimed at Tan Xiu's group and sternly shouted, "Let me give you a piece of advice. Don't meddle in other people's business. Else, you'll become a great enemy of my Dragon Clan." Tan Xiu raised his brows and simply ignored Ao Xiang. He looked at Sindoya and asked in a clear voice, "Did he just say that the remaining population of your blood elf clan is less than 100? Is that true?" Sindoya vigilantly looked at Tan Xiu and said in a deep voice, "That's right. It's true that countless of our blood elf clan have died in battle. But as long as any one of us is still alive, we can lead our clan to rise again in the future." Tan Xiu sighed. The Blood Elves are known as the War Elves of the Forest Elven Clan, and were indeed the strongest branch of the Forest Elven Clan. Who would have thought that your Blood Elf clan would fall into such a miserable situation in just a few tens of thousands of years? If my guess is correct, you should be being ostracized by the elves now, right? Sindoya's expression turned extremely unsightly. As the leader of the Blood Elf clan, she was naturally well aware of the current situation of her clan. It was very bad. Very bad indeed. She was even aware that Ao Xiang and the other 3 bastards had come here to snatch the luminous immortal mirror, and the elven imperial family definitely knew about it. Yet, they didn't lend a helping hand and just turned a blind eye to it. Tan Xiu let out a faint smile. He could see a lot of problems from Sindoya's expression. Hence, he quickly thought about it and said with a smile, "We're just passing by and don't feel like poking our nose into other people's business. But we don't mind lending a helping hand if our own people are in trouble. You're called Sindoya, right? Rather than living here sullenly, it's better for your Blood Elf clan to leave this place and find another place to settle down." Sindoya looked at Tan Xiu indifferently and asked, "Who are you? Tan Xiu smiled and said, I'm His Majesty of the Great Tang Empire. You can call me Great Tang Heavenly Emperor. If your Blood Elf clan is willing to leave with me, I can let you live in my Great Tang Empire. Sindoya pondered for a moment and shook her head. The forest immortal domain is the most suitable place for us elves to live. Besides, do you think you can make us leave with you just because of a few words? Please leave. We don't need your help. Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing. After calling Zenith Venerable and Seaway Monarch out of the Heavenly Abode artifact, he pointed at Ao Xiang and the other 3 dragons and said lightly, make them scram. Otherwise, help me kill them. Ao Xiang looked frightened and roared. You're Great Tang Heavenly Emperor, right? Do you really want to poke your nose into other people's business? Chapter 1293. Tan Xiu could hear the threat in Ao Xiang's words, but he didn't care and said with a faint smile, I don't like killing, but I can't help but meddle when I see people bullying the weak. Of course, I won't stop you if you leave now. Ao Xiang glared at Tan Xiu and shouted, let's go. After saying that, they looked coldly at Sindoya again before flying into the distance. Tan Xiu smiled slightly and let Zenith Venerable and Seaway Monarch return to the Heavenly Abode artifact. Then he looked at Sindoya and said, remember my name and the empire I own. If you really can't stay here anymore in the future, come to the Great Tang Empire and find me. I can provide you with a place to stay. After saying that, he didn't give Sindoya any time to speak and ordered the 4 Cloudpiercer beasts to continue their journey. Sindoya and the dozens of blood elves watched Tan Xiu's trio leave with complicated expressions. In fact, they didn't want to leave, but they still had a glimmer of hope that their race could return to its peak here. Chief, I think. A male blood elf wearing a red cloak and red armor said hesitantly. Sindoya raised her hand to interrupt him and said indifferently, I know what you want to say, but this is our home. We can't leave here unless we have no other choice. Besides, we don't know where the Great Tang Empire is or who the Great Tang Heavenly Emperor is. So we can't promise him. Immortal world. It was a world of ice and snow. Snowflakes fluttered in the sky, and glaciers stood tall. The ground here was covered with a thick layer of ice, and only a few plants suitable for this environment added a bit of vitality to this world of ice and snow. Kacha, above the night sky, a bolt of lightning appeared out of thin air. Amidst the lightning, a disheveled figure fell from the crack in space and smashed heavily onto the hard ice. She was Han Qinggu. She had just ascended from Earth to the immortal world, and used her spatial ability during the process of ascension. At this moment, she was drenched in blood, and her white dress was blood-stained and tattered. Cough, cough, after a long while. Only then did Han Qinggu climb up from the layer of ice with great difficulty. Her body trembled slightly as she looked around. In the end, a sad smile appeared on her face that had dozens of bloody scars. I'm back. A little later than him, right? Han Qinggu gently raised her arms, and as mist appeared around her, the blood on her body was washed clean in a short moment. As her tattered dress exploded, she instantly put on a white battle robe. Suddenly, her expression changed slightly, and a vigilant look appeared in her eyes. She sensed a powerful aura rapidly approaching from the distant horizon. Without any hesitation, she moved as fast as lightning and rushed towards a nearby iceberg. In the blink of an eye, her figure merged into the iceberg. Phew! The raging wind whistled, and a blue figure appeared out of thin air where Han Qinggu was. His body exuded a chilling aura as his sharp eyes slowly scanned the surroundings. He then frowned and murmured. There was clearly a breath of life. How did it disappear so quickly? Could it be that a great divine ability came here? A few minutes later, he secretly shook his head and then bolted toward the distance. 10 days later, a deep hole was blasted open on the iceberg. Han Qinggu, who had no injuries on her body, turned into a stream of light and shot toward the distance. She wanted to find him. She didn't even need to worry about not being able to find him. Because of her understanding of Luo Yunyang, Han Qinggu clearly understood that no matter where he went, he would cause a rain of blood and foul wind. Furthermore, he came back for revenge this time, so she could find his traces as long as she paid attention to the major events in the immortal world. Han Qinggu didn't want to disturb him, but she wanted to watch him from afar. Just watching him was enough. Immortal World, Immortal Lyceum. The Immortal Lyceum's sphere of influence was very wide, and the vast immortal domain was under the control of Apotheosis Immortal Bella. In the past 100 years, the entire Immortal Lyceum's territory had become particularly chaotic. It was because Apotheosis Bella participated in the war in the Immortal World hundreds of years ago, and was severely injured. In the endless void, 4 endless paths extended into the void, and at the intersection of the 4 paths was a piece of land in the celestial realm. The land area was not very large, but it was still millions of kilometers wide. On this piece of land, there were many richly ornamented buildings. Whoosh! A figure flickered lightning fast from the southwest road, and quickly landed outside the vortex portal connected to the land. He was clad in a silver battle robe and silver boots. His silver hair draped over his shoulders, and he exuded the aura of a perfected golden immortal. Greetings, Apotheon Mu. Dozens of immortal soldiers guarding outside the vortex portal saluted the newcomer. Apotheon Mu nodded slowly. After entering the vortex portal, he stepped on the red clouds floating in the sky, and came to the square outside the towering palace in the middle. A valiant female immortal floated over, and asked in a deep voice, "How's Apotheosis Bella's injury?" "She's seriously injured. If we can't find the holy dragon fruit within 100 years, I'm afraid," said the female immortal. "I want to see her." Apotheon Mu frowned deeply. The female immortal hesitated. "Venerable Immortal told me that if there's no..." "Come in." An ethereal voice came from the palace. Apotheon Mu gently nodded to the female immortal, and then instantly entered the palace. When his figure appeared, he was already inside the palace. He looked up at the pale-faced Apotheosis Bella sitting cross-legged on the 9 dragons' throne. He forced a smile and said, "Why did you do this, Venerable Immortal?" Apotheosis Bella had a stunning face and looked like she was in her 30s. Her skin was like ice and bones were like jade, and her beauty was soul-stirring. Her slender white fingers stroked the hair on her temples as she calmly said, "He once said that the great Tao is from my heart. My Tao is the Tao of love, and my heart has become the heart of love. He was ruthless to me, but I can't be ruthless to him. Even if I die, I want to crush the demon in my heart." Venerable Immortal, some things can't be forced. Apotheon Mu sighed. Master's soul has already flown away. You won't get any good results even if you persist. Why don't you just let it go? Fierce killing intent burst out of Apotheosis Bella's eyes, and she shouted with a bit of bitterness. "Let it go? Can I let it go? He might have died, but his worries are still there. Those treacherous bastards haven't died yet, so how can I let it go?" Apotheon Mu was silent for a moment and slowly said, "Junior brother Sirius is dead. I just received the news that he died in the hands of Venerable Baijan, a subordinate of Great Emperor Danqing." Apotheosis Bella was silent for a long time, and then said with a bit hoarse voice, "Sirius is a proud and aloof person, so he didn't want to stay in the Rosefinch holy sect. He has killed countless of Great Emperor Danqing's men in the past 700 to 800 years, and has long been regarded as a thorn in their eyes by Great Emperor Danqing and his people. I've long expected that he would be killed. Venerable Immortal, you've also slaughtered countless powerful enemies over the years, so I'm afraid they have long regarded you as a thorn in their eyes," said Apotheon Mu. "You may have broken through to the supremacy stage, but you're still seriously injured. In case, no need to worry." Apotheosis Bella shook her head and said, "The array here was arranged by your master. Unless Great Emperor Danqing and Zither Demon Jiuyao come together, they won't be able to break the immortal array here. But you often come here from the misty spring ocean, so it's very easy for them to spy on you. The reason I came here is because I need the luminous nacre fan in your hand," said Apotheon Mu. Apotheosis Bella's complexion changed and she shouted in a deep voice, "I know what you want the luminous nacre fan for, but I'll never give it to you and I'll never allow you to take risks. The 4 of them were suppressed at the foot of the heavenly mountain to attract you to rescue them. With your strength, going there is no different from walking right into a trap." "I must go," Apotheon Mu said in a deep voice. They are my martial brothers and the last disciples of Master in this world. Even if I die there, I'm willing to do so as long as I can rescue the 4 of them. No. Apotheosis Bella shook her head. I can feel more at ease if you break through to the supremacy stage. After all, even if you can't save them, you still have some assurance to escape. But you're only a perfected golden immortal now, so going there is no different from courting death. Apotheon Mu, listen to my advice. Go back to the misty spring ocean and focus all your attention on cultivation. They won't be able to break the protective array of the Rosefinch Holy Sect within 1,000 years, let alone kill all the people of the Rosefinch Holy Sect. Only when you break through to the supremacy stage will you be the best help to them. It's impossible to break through to the supremacy stage within 1,000 years. Apotheon Mu shook his head. Venerable, I've made up my mind. I'll go to the convict arena to buy 10 perfected golden immortal gladiators, and let them follow me to rescue them. If I succeed, I'll have the face to see Master. Apotheosis Bella stared at Apotheon Mu. Seeing his firm expression, she finally waved her long sleeves and threw the luminous nacre fan to him. Then she helplessly said, I'm seriously injured now and can't help you, but it's best if you can wait. I'll take you there myself when I'm fully healed. Thank you, Venerable Immortal. Apotheon Mu bowed, and then turned around to walk outside. When he was about to reach the gate, he suddenly stopped and turned to look at Apotheosis Bella, saying, I'll go back to the misty spring ocean later, and then immediately help you find the holy dragon fruit. After I find it, I'll immediately go to the heavenly mountain. It's your freedom to do whatever you want, said Apotheosis Bella. But I hope you don't easily take risks no matter what you do. There are many people in the vast immortal world who need your protection. I know. Apotheon Mu turned around and flew out of the palace gate. On the 9 dragons' throne, a bitter look appeared in Apotheosis Bella's eyes as she muttered to herself. You heartless man. You can just walk away, but you left so many debts behind. Chapter 1294. Hoary Head Galaxy. When Tan Xiao, Gu Yan'er, and Battle Peng walked out of the teleportation array, they saw a world shrouded in clouds and mist that seemed to have no end. This was the misty spring ocean, a place where even perfected golden immortals couldn't see far. Dozens of immortals in black battle robes and holding immortal swords cast their gazes over. I want to see Apotheon Mu. Tan Xiao came to the front of the dozens of immortals and spoke indifferently. The burly golden immortal leader furrowed his brows and coldly said, Who are you, mister? Do you think you can directly call out the name of our overlord? If I'm not qualified to call his name, then I'm afraid no one in the entire immortal world is qualified to do so. Tan Xiao said lightly, Send a message to Apotheon Mu and tell him that an old friend came to visit and wants to occupy his misty spring ocean as his territory. Whoosh! In an instant, the dozens of immortal soldiers, including the burly man, raised their immortal swords and stared at Tan Xiao with hostility. Think about it clearly. You'll be severely punished if you offend me, said Tan Xiao. Also, you won't lose anything if you do as I say. Maybe you can even get a huge reward. The burly man coldly stared at Tan Xiao for a long time, and finally shifted his gaze to Gu Yan'er and Battle Peng. He could clearly feel that their auras were very powerful, at least much stronger than his. Wait a minute. The burly man pondered for a moment, and finally sent out a message token. At the edge of the Hoary Head Galaxy, a battle was going on. A total of 8 perfected golden immortals were besieging Apotheon Mu. If it wasn't for the luminous nacre fan in Apotheon Mu's hand that unleashed a terrifying killing move, he would have been killed by the joint attacks of these 8 perfected golden immortals. Even if he could protect himself, he was still wounded all over at the moment and was in imminent danger. Suddenly, his complexion slightly changed. As the luminous nacre fan erupted with its strongest attack, a stream of light instantly exploded 10,000 meters away from him, and a line of golden words appeared in his vision. Lord Apotheon Mu, someone claimed to be your old friend, and said that this is your territory. Outside the teleportation array. An old friend? Possession? Apotheon Mu's heart was filled with bitterness. The crisis in front of him had left him with no time to spare, and now a powerful enemy had come to his Mist Source Island. It was really hateful. Looking at the 8 perfected golden immortals pouncing on him again, he gritted his teeth and roared. Come on! Come all of you! Even if I die, I will drag you down with me. His voice fell. He took out a communication talisman, and quickly disappeared into the distant horizon. Mist Source Island, outside the teleportation array. The burly man's expression changed. When he caught the stream of light in his hand, he immediately read the information contained within. After reading it, he looked at Tanxio's group and said, Esteemed Apotheon Mu has sent a message saying that he has left the immortal mark. Please go see him in person. Tanxio glanced at the immortal mark that appeared after the messaging talisman exploded, and immediately asked in a deep voice, How long will it take to get from here to where Apotheon Mu is? Even if a golden immortal rushes at full speed, it will still take 2 hours. The burly man sneered. Tanxio nodded and summoned Seaway Monarch from the heavenly abode artifact. Then he indifferently said, Lead the way to the place where the immortal mark is located. Understood. Seaway Monarch complied and instantly swept up Tanxio's group of 3, and flew toward the place marked by the immortal mark. His speed was very fast and he appeared thousands of miles away in just a blink of an eye. So fast. The burly man's complexion greatly changed and his face was full of shock. He could tell that the big man who was summoned was at least a perfected golden immortal. At the edge of Mist Source Island, Apotheon Mu was fighting in a frenzied counterattack in a suicidal manner. Therefore, even though the 8 perfected golden immortals exerted all their means, they still didn't want to perish together. They defended and attacked at the same time, trying to exhaust Apotheon Mu to death. Apotheon Mu, we are monitoring the Immortal Lyceum. I didn't expect to find your trace. My lord has ordered us to kill you once we find your trace. Therefore, you must die today, and we can get the reward of our lord. If you're willing to commit suicide, we can assure you that we'll leave your remnant soul behind, so that you'll have a chance to reincarnate. Else, your soul will surely fly away and scatter, said an old man in a yellow robe with red hair with a playful smile on his face. My master once said that as long as it's an enemy, we must tear the enemy's flesh and blood and dye their robes red even if we perish together, said Apotheon Mu coldly. Cut the crap. I have the luminous Nacre fan, so if you want to kill me, some of you must accompany me to perish together. It's worth it to drag several of Zither Demon Juyao's subordinates to die with me. The smile on the yellow-robed old man's face faded, and he coldly said, We'll fulfill your wish since you want your soul to perish. Let's see how you're going to drag us to die with you after we exhaust your immortal force and let you bleed dry. Apotheon Mu understood what the other party meant. He wouldn't be able to drag them to die with him if he followed their plan, and it would be very difficult to inflict heavy damage on them. However, he was unwilling. It was because he had yet to rescue his 4 martial brothers from the heavenly mountain and find the holy dragon fruit for Apotheosis Bella. In fact, he hadn't even seen the souls of those treacherous bastards dissipate. Hundreds of thousands of miles away, Seaway Monarch stopped in midair and looked at the direction where Apotheon Mu's group of 9 were fighting. Then he said, I can sense perfected golden immortals fighting ahead, master. They should be early-stage perfected golden immortals, but some of them have extremely powerful immortal artifacts. I'm afraid I'll have to be very cautious if I encounter them. Tanxio's expression changed and he asked in a deep voice, How many perfected golden immortals do they have? There are a total of 9 people on both sides, answered Seaway Monarch. Tanxio took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, Hurry over there immediately, but don't act rashly. Just follow my orders. Seaway Monarch hesitated for a moment before he flew over with the 3 of them. Who are you? Just as the 4 approached, the yellow-robed old man's expression suddenly changed, and he yelled, We are the 8 generals under Zither Demon Juyao. If you have nothing else to do, then leave immediately. At this moment, Tanxio could clearly see the fighting scene. He watched the 8 perfected golden immortals besieging Apotheon Mu, who was already in imminent danger. Killing intent burst out of his eyes. However, he was well aware of his own strength. Unless he could break through to the profound immortal stage, there was no way he could fight perfected golden immortals. Come out! Tan Xiu grinned and 22 immortals instantly appeared around him. Among these 22 people, there were 20 late-stage golden immortals, as well as 2 perfected golden immortals, Star Tears and Zenith Venerable. Tan Xiu took a deep breath and said in a heavy tone, Zither Demon Jiuyao is a notorious bastard, and I'm afraid his 8 generals aren't good people either. I didn't intend to poke my nose into other people's business, but so many of them are bullying one person. Kill them. More than 20 people exchanged glances and looked hesitant. But when they saw the killing intent on Tan Xiu's face, they immediately forced a wry smile and rushed toward the 8 perfected golden immortals. Apotheon Mu was caught off guard by this sudden change. He originally thought that these people were also enemies, but he didn't expect that they would come to help him. 3 perfected golden immortals and 20 late-stage golden immortals. With his help, even if they couldn't kill all these 8 powerful enemies, they would still be able to make them pay a heavy price. Tan Xiu took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, I've heard of your name, Apotheon Mu. You're the disciple of Star Cultivation Great Emperor, but you've been wandering around for some reason. Later on, you occupied a territory somewhere and lived a reclusive life, am I right? The pressure on Apotheon Mu was greatly reduced after receiving help. Upon hearing Tan Xiu's words, he fiercely attacked and replied in a deep voice, You're right, mister. You're going to die today, and the territory you once occupied will probably become ownerless, said Tan Xiu aloud. So, how about I save your life and give your territory to me? My territory will be yours in the future if you can help me kill them all, said Apotheon Mu in a deep voice. Tan Xiu slightly nodded. His figure flashed into the heavenly abode artifact and quickly found Tang'an. Then he said in a deep voice, I have a mission for you. Please speak, said Tang'an with a solemn expression. Tan Xiu took out an interspatial ring and handed it to her. There's a dragon entrapping immortal array disc inside. It's a treasure I bought at a high price. Even a perfected golden immortal can't rush out of it for a while. There's a fierce battle going on outside, and most of them are perfected golden immortals. Therefore, I need you to hide in the dark and secretly arrange a dragon entrapping immortal array around them. Tang'an took the interspatial ring and firmly nodded. No problem. I'll go out right away. Tan Xiu stopped her and solemnly said, You must be very careful, Tang'an. Once you find something amiss, you must immediately give up the array. When you get outside, Battle Peng will wander around the battlefield, and you must always hide under his protection. Also, the range of the array must be at least 100,000 kilometers away from the experts fighting. 100,000 kilometers. Tang'an couldn't help but exclaim. That's why Battle Peng will protect you without leaving a trace and block the aftermath of the battle, said Tan Xiu. Tell me, can you do it? I can, replied Tang'an through gritted teeth. Tan Xiu took a deep breath and took out a white immortal armor from the interspatial ring again. Then he said in a deep voice, I'll give you a few minutes to refine it quickly. This is the heavenly silkworm immortal armor, which can allow you to withstand a full blow from a perfected golden immortal without dying. But remember, you can only withstand one attack from a perfected golden immortal. This heavenly silkworm immortal armor will be destroyed after that. Tang'an's eyes turned soft, and she nodded silently. After refining the heavenly silkworm immortal armor into her battle robe, she silently disappeared from the heavenly abode artifact. Chapter 1295. When Tan Xiu re-emerged from the heavenly abode artifact, he saw that the yellow-robed old man was seriously injured by Seaway Monarch's blow, and was sent flying while spurting blood. Seaway Monarch and Zenith Venerable were both mid-level perfected golden immortals, one level higher than the 8 perfected golden immortals. Most importantly, the two of them had extremely rich combat experience. After hundreds of battles in the convict arena, they had long been tempered into fighting machines. Although Star Tears was an early-level perfected golden immortal, her combat experience was also extremely rich. In addition, Tan Xiu had given her a supreme-grade immortal sword. Therefore, the strength she displayed was also difficult for opponents of the same level to resist. Even when fighting against 2 perfected golden immortals of the same level, she was still able to do it with ease. The 20 late-level golden immortals were also experts who had experienced countless battles in the convict arena. If one of them fought against an early-level perfected golden immortal, it might not be enough. However, the 20 of them joined forces and directly entangled 4 of the perfected golden immortals. These people are so strong. Apotheon Mu attacked one of the perfected golden immortals. As the immortal artifact Nacre Radiance fan continued to attack, the opponent was forced to retreat and his injuries worsened. At the same time, he was also able to spare a bit of energy to observe the fighting situation around him. His strength was very strong. He had once obtained Tanxio's true inheritance, so his means were very heaven-defying. If he encountered a perfected golden immortal of the same level, he could also suppress the opponent. However, he really couldn't figure out who these people were. The combat strength they possessed was simply ridiculously strong. Even the owner of a medium-sized immortal domain might not be able to have so many experts under his command, right? Take the Immortal Lyceum for example. The Immortal Lyceum was one of the large immortal domains in the entire immortal world. The total strength it possessed was probably not much stronger than these people who came to help. After an hour of fighting, the situation of the battle became more and more intense. The 8 perfected golden immortal generals under Zither Demon Jiuyao were all seriously injured. If they hadn't gathered together and joined forces to resist the besiegement of the crowd, perhaps some of them would have been killed. Of course, Zenith Venerable, Seaway Monarch, and Star Tears also suffered serious injuries, but they were much better off compared to the 8 generals under Zither Demon Jiuyao's command. As for the 20 late-stage golden immortal experts, 4 of them were heavily injured and had to retreat from the battle, while the rest were riddled with injuries as they attacked their opponents in a frenzy. Swoosh Tang'an's figure suddenly appeared next to Tan Xiao, but Battle Peng didn't return to Tan Xiao's side, and directly joined the battle. Grandmaster, it's done. Tan Xiao nodded with satisfaction and said, "Activate the Grand Array immediately. We must kill all 8 perfected golden immortals today." "Let my master do it." Tang'an handed a crystal marrow to Gu Yan'er and whispered, "This crystal marrow is the core of this immortal array, master. As long as you activate it, you'll be able to understand the secrets of this feng shui formation, and you'll be able to control it easily." Gu Yan'er raised her hand to interrupt her and smilingly said, "I know how to arrange the dragon imprisoning immortal array, so it's not difficult for me to control it." After saying that, she injected her immortal force into the crystal marrow and immediately, 8 golden runes flowed out like water and quickly spread in all directions. In just a few seconds, the entire space was shrouded by the 8 water-like golden runes, while golden lines gradually formed under the ground. An immortal array? The eyes of the 8 generals under Zither Demon Jiuyao were filled with shock at the same time. They were the ones who chose this battlefield, so they couldn't figure out why there was a feng shui immortal array here. They could easily see that this was the dragon imprisoning immortal array, an extremely powerful trapping array in the immortal world. "Brothers, let's join forces to break this array." The yellow-robed old man, who was seriously injured and coughed up blood, roared and directly gave up the fierce attacks launched by the 4 perfected golden immortals, and bombarded the golden lines on the ground. At the same time, the other 7 perfected golden immortals also gave up most of their defenses, and fiercely attacked the direction the yellow-robed old man was attacking. Puff, puff, puff. The 3 perfected golden immortals were instantly killed by Seaway Monarch, Zenith Venerable, and Star Tears. Even the immortal weapons in their hands shattered the 3's immortal souls. Bang, 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 bang. Even if the other 5 perfected golden immortals were not killed in one blow, they still suffered serious injuries. 2 of them even directly lost their ability to fight. However, the dragon imprisoning immortal array, which could withstand the full blow of a perfected golden immortal, was directly broken by the simultaneous bombardment of 8 perfected golden immortals. "Run." The red-robed old man's eyes revealed a crazed look. As he swallowed a pill, his aura soared in just a few seconds. Under the threat of being pierced by Star Tears in the abdomen, he sprayed a pool of blood and fled to the distance in a panic. Puff, puff, Puff. Another 3 perfected golden immortals were killed while fleeing in panic. One of them was even directly killed by the joint attack of 10 golden immortals. In the end, the pursuit of millions of kilometers only caused more serious injuries to the 2 fleeing perfected golden immortals, but failed to kill them completely. Master. Siwei Monarch wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and came to Tan Xiao with a wry smile. He then said, "This subordinate is incompetent. I failed to capture all the enemies." Tan Xiao squinted his eyes and lightly said, "The 2 fleeing perfected golden immortals should have taken some kind of secret medicine, right? Zither Demon Jiuyao only has 2 kinds of secret medicines that can temporarily enhance one's strength, but cause great damage to the body. One is the Bloodthirst pill, and the other is the Chunjin Valley Venom. They just took pills, so I think it's the Bloodthirst pill." Siwei Monarch and Zenith Venerable looked shocked, because they were keenly aware that their master seemed to know Zither Demon Jiuyao very well. A strange light flashed in Star Tear's eyes, and she suspiciously looked at Tan Xiao. Then, she turned to look at Apotheon Mu and asked with a hint of concern, "How are your injuries?" Apotheon Mu shook his head, but his eyes never left Tan Xiao. Tan Xiao took out a healing elixir from his interspatial ring, and handed it to everyone. Then he said, "All of you hurry up and heal yourselves. We'll be leaving this place soon." After saying that, he looked at Apotheon Mu and lightly said, "Don't forget your promise. The Misty Spring Ocean is my territory from now on. You can choose to submit to me, or you can bring your people to submit to my Great Tang Empire." The Great Tang Empire? Apotheon Mu had never heard of this name, and quietly observed Tan Xiao. Although he vaguely felt a trace of familiarity, he still shook his head and said, "I'm sorry. I can hand over the Misty Spring Ocean to you, but I'll never submit to you. I, Reverend Mu, will remember this life-saving grace in my heart. However, I'm afraid I won't have the chance to repay you in the future." Tan Xiao frowned and said, "Your injuries aren't fatal. You'll recover in half a year at most after taking a healing elixir. Therefore, you'll have plenty of opportunities to repay me." Apotheon Mu was silent for more than 10 seconds. Finally, he shook his head with a bitter expression and said, "Since you know that I'm Star Cultivation Great Emperor's disciple, then you should know the grudge between me, Great Emperor Danqing, and Zither Demon Jiuyao. My 4 martial brothers are now imprisoned by Great Emperor Danqing in the Heavenly Mountain, and are suffering cruel torture. Therefore, I must rescue them. I also know that my chances of surviving this time are less than 1 in 10,000. Tan Xiao's pupils contracted, and the killing intent in his heart skyrocketed. Then he said in a deep voice, "You said that your 4 martial brothers are imprisoned by Great Emperor Danqing in the Heavenly Mountain?" "Yes." Apotheon Mu nodded and replied. "Who are these 4? asked Tan Xiao. "I've heard of Star Cultivation Great Emperor's disciples. Each of them is an outstanding talent in the immortal world, and their strength is not to be underestimated. Their senior brother Wanlai, junior brother Soaring Chong, junior brother 9 Immortal Fingers, and junior sister Enchantress," said Apotheon Mu. Tan Xiao frowned and asked, "As far as I know, Star Cultivation Great Emperor doesn't only have disciples like you, right? You have so many martial brothers, so how come you're the only one going to rescue them alone? What about the others? Don't you know that you'll have a greater chance of winning if you join forces with them to rescue them?" Apotheon Mu clenched his fists and killing intent flashed in his eyes. Either die in battle or defect to the enemy. Tan Xiao originally intended to tell Apotheon Mu about his identity, and then thoroughly understand the situation in the immortal world through him. But because of the rescue mission, he temporarily changed his mind, and decided not to tell Apotheon Mu for the time being. But after hearing his words, Tan Xiao temporarily changed his mind, and decided to give up. Through this battle, he understood that Apotheon Mu was loyal to him, and would never betray him. Tan Xiao waved his hand and said in a deep voice, "Everyone, enter the Heavenly Abode artifact to recuperate. Don't come out without my summon." "Understood." Everyone nodded and threw themselves into the Heavenly Abode artifact, including Gu Yan'er and Battle Peng. Tan Xiao looked at Apotheon Mu and calmly said, "Take me to the Misty Spring Ocean." We need to have a good talk, and I think you'll agree to pledge allegiance to me. Apotheon Mu couldn't help laughing. He knew that Tan Xiao was too confident. He had already thrown caution to the wind, and would never choose to pledge allegiance to anyone. As long as he could rescue his fellow brothers and find the holy dragon fruit, he was willing to sacrifice himself. Misty Spring Ocean. Repose Cliff. This was Apotheon Mu's immortal mansion, the place where he cultivated in seclusion all year round. As the wide gate slowly opened, Apotheon Mu took Tan Xiao and stepped into the immortal mansion on the cliff. Following his order, four maids brought fine wine and delicacies, as well as immortal fruits and snacks. I haven't asked your name yet, mister? Apotheon Mu poured 2 glasses of wine, handed one to Tan Xiao, and then picked up the glass. Tan Xiao put down the wine glass and slowly walked to a portrait hanging on the wall. Looking at the familiar face, his appearance began to change and soon became exactly the same as the owner of the painting on the wall. Young Apotheon Mu, do you still remember the Golden Lotus secret scroll? Chapter 1296. Apotheon Mu looked at Tan Xiao's back, and his expression suddenly changed. His slender body suddenly stood up and shouted, "Who the hell are you? How do you know about the Golden Lotus secret scroll?" Tan Xiao didn't rush to look back, and didn't even answer Apotheon Mu's question. He continued, the 6th chapter of the Golden Lotus secret scroll. Weaving and intertwining threads, strength and roots. As the name suggests, the Golden Lotus is a combination of layers. To erupt its power, one needs to have a solid and stable root to form a lotus petal entanglement. Answer my question. Apotheon Mu angrily shouted. Haven't you guessed who I am yet? Tan Xiao asked rhetorically. After saying that, he finally slowly turned around, his hands constantly forming seals. A golden lotus completely woven with golden threads bloomed with dazzling golden light. Apotheon Mu staggered back a few steps and looked incredulously at Tan Xiao's face. His heart fiercely twitched a few times. He was a dignified, perfected golden immortal. Yet he raised his arm and desperately rubbed his eyes as if to make sure that he wasn't seeing things. Tan Xiao looked at his extremely shocked appearance and calmly said, Blackwater City, Fairy-Seeking Cliff, Flying Despairs and Misty Spring Ocean. Apotheon Mu was as though struck by lightning. He was shocked by the 4 places Tan Xiao mentioned. Blackwater City was the place where he first met Tan Xiao, and also the place where he apprenticed to his master. That time was the first turning point of his fate when he was young. Fairy-Seeking Cliff was the place where he became an immortal. Due to special reasons, he experienced a narrow escape from death and finally barely broke through to the immortal stage. It was the second transformation of his life. Flying Despairs was the place where his beloved died. It was also the place where his heart was like dead ashes, and the place where he suffered the most in his life. The third time, his fate was reversed. Misty Spring Ocean was the place where he lived in seclusion. He lived a muddle-headed life like a walking corpse without any vitality. If it weren't for his master's failure in crossing the tribulation and the persecution of his family, he felt that he would have died here alone. Tan Xiao slowly turned around and looked at Apotheon Mu, asking lightly, Haven't guessed who I am yet? When Apotheon Mu saw Tan Xiao's appearance at this moment, his body violently trembled, and he immediately turned into a shadow that rushed in front of Tan Xiao. He knelt down and 2 lines of tears rolled down his face as he cried out, Your master, you're still alive? All sorts of feelings welled up inside Tan Xiao's heart. He gently stepped forward and gently hugged Apotheon Mu's head with both hands, letting him lean on him and softly said, Yes, I'm still alive. Master. Apotheon Mu's tears flowed even faster, and he wailed, Master, I thought you had failed to transcend the tribulation and your soul had dispersed. Little venerable Mu, I miss you. Tan Xiao gently patted the back of Apotheon Mu's head and bitterly said, How could I not miss you? However what? Apotheon Mu was confused. Tan Xiao adjusted his facial muscles and restored his original appearance. Immediately after, thick killing intent appeared on his handsome face and he said in a deep voice, Everyone thought I had failed to transcend the tribulation, but I was actually besieged by my former lover and my most trusted brother. If it wasn't for a wisp of my spiritual sense entering another time and finally preserving my consciousness, I'm afraid my soul would have dispersed. What did you say? Apotheon Mu's body shook violently and disbelief filled his eyes. You didn't hear it wrong. Shui Qingcheng, Great Emperor Danqing and Zither Demon Jiuyao, said Tan Xiu indifferently. The three of them attacked me when I was at my weakest after transcending the divine tribulation. After saying that, he gently raised his right arm and released primal chaos force to prop Apotheon Mu up. Master's wife she, murmured Apotheon Mu. She's no longer your master's wife, Tan Xiu coldly said. She may have been forced to do so, but what she did will never be erased by time. Apotheon Mu, if you still think of me as your master, then don't have the slightest connection with her anymore. Apotheon Mu's lips squirmed a few times and he bitterly nodded. He originally thought that his master's wife, Shui Qingcheng, chose to commit suicide because his master failed to transcend the tribulation and her soul dispersed. He didn't expect that his master did not fail to transcend the tribulation, but was persecuted by them instead. No wonder. No wonder those damned bastards, Great Emperor Danqing and Zither Demon Jiuyao, attacked our people after you disappeared. Master, our 4 senior brothers and junior brothers are now in danger, and the Rosefinch Holy Sect is holing up in the sect's mainland. No one dares to come out easily. Further, even Apotheosis Bella has been seriously injured. I'm afraid she won't be able to hold on for another 100 years if she can't find an immortal fruit, said Apotheon Mu bitterly. Tan Xiu's complexion slightly changed. He was silent for a long time before he slowly asked, You mean Apotheosis Bella has taken action? Apotheon Mu nodded and said, Master, Apotheosis Bella has been fighting with Great Emperor Danqing and Zither Demon Jiuyao for hundreds of years because of you. Although she has successfully broken through to the supremacy stage, she was still seriously injured by Great Emperor Danqing. I just came back from the Immortal Lyceum and was found by those 8 perfected golden immortals. She's in a very bad situation, Master. The guilt inside Tang Xiu's heart increased a bit. He murmured, Why did she do this? Apotheon Mu hesitated for a moment and then seriously said, Master, I'm not qualified to talk about your feelings for you because of your wife. But Apotheosis Bella has sacrificed too much for you in the past 600 to 700 years. She has fought countless powerful enemies for you. Her sect was eventually massacred by Zither Demon Jiuyao and his people because of her. More than half of her most beloved disciples had died in battle. Of the 18 perfected golden immortals of the Immortal Lyceum, only 6 are left now. If it weren't for her, I'm afraid that the Rosefinch Holy Sect's protective array would have been broken by Great Emperor Danqing and Zither Demon Jiuyao. What an ill-fated fate. Tan Xiu clenched his fists and a glimmer of tears appeared in his eyes. Apotheon Mu said, We have to find a way to rescue our 4 martial brothers and sisters, Master. They are suffering endless torture every day and I'm afraid they won't be able to hold on for long. What's the situation in the Heavenly Mountain? Asked Tan Xiu. I've sent some people to inquire about it. Although all the people I sent were killed, they sent me a message before they died. There's a supremacy stage powerhouse guarding that place, the only supremacy stage senior of Zither Demon Jiuyao. In addition, there are also 12 perfected golden immortals there, laying a trap and waiting for our people to walk into the trap. There are also countless golden immortals there. Tan Xiu took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, We must save them, but we're not their match at the moment. I've started cultivating again, but I can't even compare to an immortal at the golden immortal stage. You've also seen the combat power around me. Even the 8 perfected golden immortals can't all be kept here. Given the strength of our people, even if all of us are dispatched, it's tantamount to hitting a stone with an egg. Do you have any plans? Asked Apotheon Mu hurriedly. Tang Xiu took a deep breath and said, The news that I'm still alive, aside from you, is only known by Catwoman. I didn't even recognize Anti-Star Tears when I rescued you. Star Tears? Apotheon Mu suddenly recalled that the female perfected golden immortal had asked about his injury before. He didn't care about it at that time, but now that he thought about it, she turned out to be Martial Ant Star Tears who had changed her appearance. You can believe in apotheosis, Bella, Master. Apotheon Mu was silent for a long time before he resolutely said. Tanxio nodded slowly and said, I didn't intend to tell her before, but I've changed my mind now. If we want to gain a foothold in the immortal world and recruit more troops to expand our forces, we must have a real powerhouse to oversee it. My father and the rest are in the Rosefinch Holy Sect, so there's no way for them to come out and help us. Therefore, Apotheosis Bella is our only choice. Shall I take you to see her? Asked Apotheon Mu hurriedly. I can't see her for the time being. Tanxio shook his head and said, Tell me what kind of immortal fruit she needs. I'll find a way to find it for her. The holy dragon fruit, Apotheon Mu said. Tanxio stared blankly for a moment. He immediately took out the holy dragon fruit from his interspatial ring and said in a deep voice, What a coincidence. I have a holy dragon fruit. Take action now and give her the holy dragon fruit. Also, tell her to heal her injuries as soon as possible and strive to completely recover within half a year. We'll set off for the heavenly mountain 6 months later. Apotheon Mu nodded and said, Senior brother, junior brother, and sister should be able to hold on for half a year with their strength. Besides, the other party still needs to use them as bait, so it's impossible to kill them so quickly. Master, do you have anything else you want me to convey? Tanxio was silent for a moment and slowly said, Extraordinary times call for extraordinary means. After you see Apotheosis Bella, ask her for some crystal essences. The more the better. I need them urgently. Apotheon Mu took out another interspatial ring from his ring and handed it to Tanxio, saying, All my immortal crystals and crystal essences are in here, Master. There are nearly 2,000 crystal essences in total. Please take them and use them first. Without hesitation, Tanxio directly put away the things and said, There's one more thing you need to do before you go see Apotheosis Bella. Although this misty spring ocean is within the Immortal Lyceum's sphere of influence, it's quite remote. I need to establish the Great Tang Empire here as our base camp. Therefore, I need you to clean up all the untrustworthy people and forces in the Misty Spring Ocean's sphere of influence. Apotheon Mu nodded and said, Although I usually don't pay much attention to the Misty Spring Island, your request is still very easy for me. I'll clean up the entire Misty Spring Island in a month at most. I'll give you a list, said Tanxio. Also, send someone to find some alchemy herbs for me. I'll give you half a month to have more than 200,000 members of the Great Tang Empire obey your command. After you finish these things in half a month, I'll ask Zenith Venerable and Seaway Monarch, 2 perfected golden immortals, to accompany you to the Immortal Lyceum. Understood. Apotheon Mu respectfully nodded. After thinking for a while, Tanxio handed over Gu Yen, from the Heavenly Abode artifact and said, Greetings to your senior brother Apotheon Mu, Yen. The return to the immortal world is in progress. Brothers and sisters, if you have any good suggestions or creative ideas for the ending of the immortal world, please leave a message on the WeChat public account. Quiet Night's WeChat public account is JYJS00, or search for Quiet Night Thoughts in the WeChat subscription account. Quiet Night is currently updating Tanxio's harem list bit by bit. Each and every one of them is breathtakingly beautiful .. Chapter 1297. A smile appeared on the corner of Gu Yenner's mouth. As her appearance slowly changed, she bowed and said with a smile, Yenner greets senior brother Apotheon Mu. Senior brother promised Yen the 7-colored flowing light butterfly back then, but you haven't given it to me yet. Apotheon Mu's eyes widened, and he looked at Gu Yenner in disbelief. You're Yenner little? You weren't you? Senior brother Mu. I was trapped in a certain impasse in the immortal world at that time. After a long time of cultivation, I was finally able to break the restriction there and rush out. Gu Yenner smilingly said, Actually, I have another identity that I believe senior brother Apotheon Mu should have heard of. What identity? Asked Apotheon Mu confused. Rakshasa Demonis, answered Gu Yenner with a chuckle. Apotheon Mu's pupils shrunk and disbelief filled his eyes. He said in amazement, Junior sister Yen, You're actually the Rakshasa demoness whose name shook the entire immortal world? Heavens! Your existence in the past made countless powerhouses in the immortal world turn pale. Even I, who lived in seclusion here for many years, heard of your name. Everything I did was for Master, said Gu Yen'er with a smile. Regardless of the process, I finally found Master. Tan Xiu chuckled and said, It's a happy occasion for the two of you to meet again. Yen'er, you'll be in charge of the Heavenly Abode artifact in the future. After you release all the people of the Great Tang Empire, you'll lead the monster immortals to follow Apotheon Mu and clean up the entire Misty Spring Ocean. This Misty Spring Ocean will be the Great Tang Empire's base camp in the future. After we rescue your senior brothers and sisters, we'll use this place as the center to expand our territory in all directions. I understand, Master. Gu Yen'er nodded heavily. Repose Cliff. It was an excellent heavenly abode, blessed land. The immortal spiritual force here was exceptionally rich, and there was a large amount of liquid immortal spiritual force in the mist. Just taking a breath here was enough to refresh one's spirit. In addition, 8 immortal veins converged here. Anyone who cultivated here could extract the spiritual force of the earth vein and continuously inject it into their body to enhance their cultivation speed. 2 months later, Apotheon Mu and Gu Yen'er joined forces and led a large number of monster immortals of the great forces to clean up the Misty Spring of the entire Misty Spring of immortals. All the immortals who weren't loyal to Apotheon Mu were slaughtered. In just 2 months, more than 100,000 immortals on Miss Source Island were slaughtered, including some intelligence agents from other forces. There were no golden immortal experts in the entire Miss Source Island, except for those cultivated by Apotheon Mu. Meanwhile, Gu Yen'er and Apotheon Mu teamed up with the soldiers of the Great Tang Empires for major legions and tens of thousands of immortals to form the new 4 major legions. At the same time, they also absorbed hundreds of thousands of Great Ascension Stage and Crossing Tribulation Stage warriors to form the new War Dragon Legion, War Tiger Legion, War Phoenix Legion, and War Marshal Legion. Each legion had a total of 100,000 people, making a total of 400,000 people. 400,000 people. They were stationed in 8 directions around Miss Source Island, with 5 people in each direction. While they were stationed there, they also began to train the soldiers crazily. Tan Xiu even took out 5 million crystal essences and gave them to Gu Yen'er and Tang Min, so that they could convert them into immortal crystals. A total of 500 million immortal crystals would be used for military expenses. After that, a huge amount of cultivation resources were sent by the Ministry of Finance to the 8 divisions of the 4 legions and distributed to all the members. Due to the huge amount of cultivation resources, the nearly 200,000 soldiers of the immortal world, who were originally loyal to Apotheon Mu, all accepted the Great Tang Empire's title and accepted the soldiers of the Great Tang Empire. The 2 of them cultivated with all their might, and as they interacted with each other, they gradually became one. The 4th month. On the edge of the Repose Cliff, Tan Xiu sat cross-legged with a huge aura surging from his body. Along with the vibration of hundreds of thousands of planets in the internal universe, a profound yellow aura gradually formed and finally merged with the primal chaos energy. Tan Xiu could clearly feel that the scope of the universe space inside his body had expanded a lot, and countless tiny planets had appeared. The Heavenly Path Universe tree had also soared to tens of thousands of meters high. The verdant leaves were lush, and the endless aura of life drifted out of the tree and merged with the huge planets. Progress by leaps and bounds. The moment Tan Xiu opened his eyes, a look of satisfaction burst out from his eyes. He was just 1 step away from breaking through to the 3rd stage of the heavenly art of cosmic genesis. His current strength was comparable to a golden immortal stage powerhouse. Being able to achieve this in such a short time was mainly due to his previous comprehension of the realm, as well as the fact that Apotheon Mu sent someone to prepare the medicinal ingredients for refining the demon dragon pill, allowing him to successfully refine 4 demon dragon pills and swallow all of them. Buzz! Faintly, a terrifying aura formed above Tan Xiu. Only Tan Xiu could feel this terrifying aura. Even Gu Yen'er, who was quietly flipping through the ancient books on arrays dozens of meters away from Tan Xiao, didn't notice anything. Divine ability fusion. A look of satisfaction appeared on Tan Xiao's handsome face. He had obtained several star essence divine abilities in the past. This kind of divine ability was very terrifying, even faintly surpassing some of the terrifying secret techniques of the immortal world. Originally, the strongest was the Devour divine ability, and now I have obtained the Fusion divine ability. Even if it's a late-stage golden immortal, I have some confidence in killing them if I go all out. Tan Xiao didn't test this Fusion divine ability because it was too terrifying. Once used, it would be sensed by more than half of the golden immortals and perfected golden immortals in the misty spring ocean. Immortal Court. After Apotheon Mu arrived with Zenith Venerable and Seaway Monarch, the expression of the perfected golden immortal stationed outside changed. After quickly sending a message token, he glanced at Zenith Venerable and Seaway Monarch, and then asked Apotheon Mu. Apotheon Mu, what brings you here this time? I want to see Apotheosis Bella, said Apotheon Mu calmly. I can let you in directly when you came alone last time, said the perfected golden immortal in a deep voice. But this time, you brought 2 perfected golden immortals with you. I don't know if they are friends or foes, so I've sent a message to Apotheosis Bella. I can't guarantee whether she will see you or not. I'll be waiting. Apotheon Mu nodded. After a while, a stream of light appeared in the perfected golden immortal's hand. After reading the message, he immediately looked at Apotheon Mu and said, Apotheosis Bella asked the 3 of you to go in directly. She's waiting for you in the main hall. Understood. Apotheon Mu's group of 3 entered the vortex portal, and quickly appeared on the square outside the palace. He stopped and looked at Zenith Venerable and Seaway Monarch, saying, Both of you wait for me outside. I have something to discuss with Apotheosis Bella alone. Understood. Zenith Venerable and Seaway Monarch cupped their fists at the same time. The duo watched Apotheon Mu's back as he flew into the palace with a strange expression in their eyes. Don't you think it's getting more and more interesting, Brother Seaway? Zenith Venerable said with a voice transmission. Our master's identity seems to be different from what we usually see. You're right, said Seaway Monarch. Although we've never seen him in action, we can judge from his aura that he's just an ordinary immortal. Yet he has a golden immortal as a disciple. Further, Gu Yan'er shouldn't be a simple golden immortal. I'm afraid that she was once a perfected golden immortal at the very least. And she's probably not weaker than us. There's also Apotheon Mu. He's a dignified perfected golden immortal. Yet he's also Master's disciple. I'm starting to speculate that our Master should be a terrifying supremacy stage powerhouse, right? That's right. I also suspect that our Master was once a supremacy stage powerhouse. Zenith Venerable sighed. Even if he wasn't, he should be a terrifying perfected golden immortal at the very least. Also, I have a vague feeling that if it's true, the 5,000 years we're going to be loyal to him won't be so easy. What feeling? Asked Seaway Monarch, confused. I suspect that our Master has a deep relationship with the Star Cultivation Great Emperor, who once shook the immortal world, said Zenith Venerable bitterly. Why do you say that? Asked Seaway Monarch in horror. Everyone in the immortal world knows that Apotheosis Bella, the Lord of the Immortal Lyceum, has been pursuing Star Cultivation Great Emperor for thousands of years, said Zenith Venerable. She even confessed her love to him countless times. But our Master actually set the Great Tang Empire's headquarters on Miss Source Island. You must know that Miss Source Island is within the Immortal Lyceum's sphere of influence. Furthermore, Great Emperor Danqing and Zither Demon Jiuyao launched a terrifying attack on the Rosefinch Holy Sect after Star Cultivation Great Emperor failed to cross his tribulation. Our Master personally said that he hated Zither Demon Jiuyao's character, so he ordered us to kill the 8 perfected golden immortal generals of Zither Demon Jiuyao. All of this shows that our Master has a deep relationship with Star Cultivation Great Emperor. Our future opponents will probably be Zither Demon Jiuyao and Great Emperor Danqing. Seaway Monarch's eyes flickered. After pondering for a long time, he slowly nodded and said, Your inference is very reasonable. However, our lives are now in his hands. Even if he wants us to directly kill Great Emperor Danqing and Zither Demon Jiuyao, we can't disobey him. Yeah. Zenith Venerable sighed. We'll probably have to live a life of war and slaughter for the next 5,000 years. However, the only thing we can rejoice about is that he gave us hope and treated us well. Seaway Monarch said. Actually, if the Great Tang Empire has the strength to contend with Shade Demon Zhu Wushou in the future, and Master is willing to help me kill Shade Demon Zhu Wushou, I'm willing to pledge my eternal loyalty to him. Brother Seaway, we've never talked about the past, but I didn't expect that your enemy turned out to be Zhu Wushou. Was he the one who seriously injured you and sold you to the convict arena? Chapter 1298. Seaway Monarch recalled the past and replied with a murderous voice transmission. That's right. It's him, Shade Demon Zhu Wushou. Zenith Venerable pondered for a moment and slowly said, My enemy is not Shade Demon Zhu Wushou, but if Master is willing to help you get rid of Shade Demon Zhu Wushou, then I'm afraid he can also help me kill my enemy. If he can help me, I'll pledge my allegiance to him forever. Who's your enemy? Asked Seaway Monarch curiously. Zenith Venerable gritted his teeth and answered, Frost Supreme Han Tian-nan. Seaway Monarch forced a smile and said, If our master can really help us take revenge, then we'll have too many enemies. However, judging from the current state of the Great Tang Empire, its future development is likely to be very terrifying. Let's not talk about anything else. Just the children of the Great Tang Empire who have been trained since they were young are simply like killing machines. With that kind of iron-fisted training method, I'm afraid that they will become terrifying killing machines once they grow up. Zenith Venerable nodded and said, I've been to countless immortal domains and seen countless immortal legions. I've even trained my own immortal legion. But I've never seen any force or empire that can compare to the 4 major legions of the Great Tang Empire, in terms of military posture and training methods. However, what shocked me the most was the 30,000 demonic immortals. Based on my observation and understanding, those demonic immortals had lived for more than 100,000 years, or even longer. Their accumulation had simply reached a terrifying level. Haven't you noticed that hundreds of celestial immortals have broken through to the golden immortal stage recently? Yeah, but you missed something. Seaway Monarch nodded and said, What else? What else? Zenith Venerable asked curiously. I just happened to discover that one of our master's disciples, the young man named Chen Zhizhong, actually possesses an ancient shaman artifact and is also a magus cultivator, said Seaway Monarch. Although the clan that possesses the ancient shaman artifact has been persecuted, you should know how terrifying they are, right? It's them. Zenith Venerable was aghast. Inside the majestic palace, Apotheosis Bella was still sitting cross-legged on the 9 Dragons' throne. Her complexion was even paler and her spirit was even more dispirited. There were even bloodstains on her chest. Immortal Sovereign. After Apotheon Mu floated over and saw Apotheosis Bella's appearance, he immediately showed a worried look. Apotheosis Bella squeezed out a smile and nodded with satisfaction. You didn't let me down, Apotheon Mu. The Heavenly Mountain was a trap set up by the enemy. Going there recklessly would only result in death. I'm very pleased that you understand the concept of where there's life, there's hope. Apotheon Mu took out the holy dragon fruit from his interspatial ring and sent it to Apotheosis Bella with his immortal force. Then he respectfully said, Venerable, things have changed, so I didn't rush to the Heavenly Mountain to rescue my 4 martial brothers. I've brought this holy dragon fruit for you. When I leave later, you can consume it to heal your injuries. Apotheosis Bella looked shocked. She grabbed the holy dragon fruit and repeatedly observed it for a while. Then she turned to Apotheon Mu and murmured, The holy dragon fruit is rare and extremely precious. It's also one of the main materials for refining the primordial chaos pill. How did you find it? Apotheon Mu slightly smiled and said, Apotheosis Bella, this junior has something important to discuss with you alone. This matter is very important. I hope you can promise me. Junior? Apotheosis Bella was at a loss. It had been thousands of years since she met Apotheon Mu. And this was the first time he addressed himself as a junior in front of her. What exactly happened? This person in front of her was undoubtedly Apotheon Mu. It was impossible for him to deceive her eyes with a transformation technique. But why was he behaving like this? Apotheosis Bella was silent for a while, and then slowly said, "You leave first. You're not allowed to come here without my summon." Whoosh, whoosh. A man and a woman appeared in front of Apotheosis Bella out of thin air with vigilant looks on their faces. The old woman then said in a deep voice, "Venerable, there's something wrong with Apotheon Mu. He brought 2 perfected golden immortals this time, and I've seen one of them before. He's Zenith Venerable. His strength is not to be underestimated." Apotheosis Bella shot a deep look at Apotheon Mu and said in a deep voice, "You two don't need to say anything. I choose to believe him because he doesn't need to bring the holy dragon fruit if he wants to harm me. He doesn't even need to do anything. It's very difficult for me to last for 100 years. This." The 2 old men exchanged glances and finally retreated with a wry smile. Apotheosis Bella looked at Apotheon Mu and calmly said, "I've told them to retreat. There's only the 2 of us left here. Just say what you want to say." Apotheon Mu looked around and pondered for a moment. Then he seriously said, "Venerable, what I'm going to say is very important. Not only to me, but also to you. Therefore, there must be no one else here. Else, I'm afraid you'll kill him no matter how much you trust him." Apotheosis Bella's complexion slightly changed, but she still calmly said, "Say it. I guarantee there's only the 2 of us left here." Apotheon Mu took a few steps forward and transmitted his voice to her. "Venerable, my master asked me to send his regards to you." "What did you say?" Apotheosis Bella rushed up and instantly appeared in front of Apotheon Mu. Her hands trembled as she grabbed Apotheon Mu's chest and fiercely shouted, "I won't allow you to talk nonsense about him. Give me an explanation. You must give me an explanation." "Venerable, my master is not dead. He's back." Apotheon Mu smiled. "He's not dead? He's back?" The short sentence was like a clap of thunder that blasted Apotheosis Bella's heart, making her dizzy for a while. It took her a long time to sober up from the shock. Sparkling tears welled up in her eyes as she asked with extreme emotion, "Where is he now? Tell me, where is he?" By the end, her voice had become very sharp. Apotheon Mu forced a smile and said, "Venerable, your injuries are too serious. Don't get too excited. My master is in my misty spring ocean. But due to some special reasons he can't come to see you now. He can't even see you now." "Why?" Apotheosis Bella angrily shouted. "Why can't he see me now? Tell me, what's the special reason? I, Bella, have risked my life countless times for him. Countless relatives and friends have died in battle. I want to know what's the special reason why he can't come to see me?" "Venerable, master didn't die because he failed to cross his tribulation, but was ambushed and killed by others," said Apotheon Mu in a deep voice. Fortunately, a wisp of his spiritual sense traveled through space and entered a lower plane world, so he barely survived. Now, master's cultivation is only comparable to a weak celestial immortal at most. But in this immortal world, there are no less than 5 supremacy stage powerhouses. Do you think he can easily expose his identity? Do you think he can swagger here to see you?" Apotheosis Bella's eyes widened, and she staggered backward for 5 steps before she barely managed to stabilize her figure. The shock on her face receded, and was replaced by endless killing intent. She asked with a heavy voice, "Great Emperor Danqing and Zither Demon Jiuyao are among those supremes?" "That's right." Apotheon Mu nodded with a solemn expression. "You may not know this, but Zither Demon Jiuyao's men have appeared outside your immortal Lyceum. I was besieged by 8 perfected golden immortals under Zither Demon Jiuyao when I left your place last time. If it wasn't for Master's timely arrival to kill 6 perfected golden immortals and severely injure the other 2, I'm afraid my soul would have flown away and perished by now." Apotheosis Bella finally understood why Tan Xiu couldn't come to see her. He was surrounded by enemies on all sides. That was his difficulty. 2 lines of tears kept rolling down Apotheosis Bella's face. She was crying tears of joy, even though she was in front of Apotheon Mu. She still cried for a long time before wiping the tears on her face. Apotheon Mu, does he still despise me like he used to? Apotheosis Bella asked cautiously with a look of fear and trepidation on her face. Apotheon Mu, he already knows what you've done for him. He feels very guilty about it. Apotheon Mu shook his head. When he talked about you back then, I could see that there was a bit of pity in his emotions. Pity? Apotheosis Bella's eyes widened, and she quickly analyzed the meaning of this word. A trace of surprise gradually emerged in her eyes, followed by ecstasy on her face. Pity? He's finally moved by me? Apotheosis Bella's body slightly trembled. Hot tears flowed from her eyes again as she shouted, Apotheon Mu, tell me what he thinks and his plan. Since there are enemies, let's kill them all. He's back and there's nothing he can't do in the immortal world. I believe in him. There are 4 things in total, said Apotheon Mu with a smile. Apotheosis Bella's eyes lit up and she immediately said, Tell me. I'll keep it in mind. First, only you can know that he's still alive, said Apotheon Mu. You must never tell anyone, not even those close to you, because only you and I know that Master is still alive. Even Marshal Ant Star Tears, who is now with Master, didn't tell her. I promise. Apotheosis Bella replied in a deep voice. Second, Master wants you to take the holy dragon fruit to heal your injuries as soon as possible, said Apotheon Mu with a smile. Also, I brought you some healing pills that can speed up your recovery. Apotheosis Bella nodded seriously and said, No problem. I'll be able to recover in a few months after getting the holy dragon fruit. Immortal Bella solemnly nodded and said, No problem. After obtaining the holy dragon fruit, I will be able to fully recover in a few months. Third, Master needs immortal crystals and crystal essences. The more, the better, said Apotheon Mu. After I get them, I'll immediately rush back and give them to him. Brothers and sisters, the recommendation votes are flying. Quiet Night is striving to update 4 chapters today. I'm deeply grateful. _. Chapter 1299. Apotheosis Bella took a deep breath and said, I'll send someone to get all the immortal crystals and crystal essences later. You'll bring them to him. Apotheon Mu nodded and said, The 4th matter. The Great Tang Empire founded by Master is located in the Misty Spring Ocean. Master ordered me to tell you to send people to clean up the entire Immortal Lyceum sphere of influence and eliminate all the hidden enemies as much as possible. After we rescue my 4 martial brothers, the Great Tang Empire will expand its territory in all directions with the Misty Spring Ocean as the center. Apotheosis Bella nodded and said, I've already taken care of this matter. I'll handle it myself when necessary. I guarantee that I'll clean up all the problematic subordinates in a short time. After saying that, she summoned the 2 old men and said in a deep voice, I'll give you 2 hours to send all the immortal crystals and crystal essences the Immortal Lyceum has. Remember to send as many as you have. The 2 old men exchanged glances and immediately nodded. An hour later, they returned to Apotheosis Bella with an interspatial ring. The old man said, Venerable, there are more than 450 million immortal crystals and 87 million crystal essences in our Immortal Lyceum's vault. They're all in this interspatial ring. Apotheosis Bella slightly nodded and said, Give them to Apotheon Mu. The old man hesitated and forced a smile. Venerable, our Immortal Lyceum will have no immortal crystals and crystal essences to use once we give them all to Apotheon Mu. If we can't come up with the immortal crystals half a year later. Apotheosis Bella waved her hand and said, I'll naturally have a way when the time comes. The old man handed the interspatial ring with a large number of immortal crystals and crystal essences to Apotheon Mu, and then left with the old woman. Apotheosis Bella took a deep breath and looked at Apotheon Mu. He's back. What about her? Her? Apotheon Mu's eyes flashed with killing intent, and he indifferently said, She was one of the people who besieged Master. What? Apotheosis Bella seemed to have heard the most incredible thing in the world and exclaimed, How is that possible? Although she's my rival in love, no one knows her better than I do. She can die for Xiao. How could she? Apotheonmu lightly said. If it weren't for Shade Demon Zhu Wuxiu, perhaps she wouldn't have tried to kill Master. However, she was Shade Demon Zhu Wuxiu's disciple. Even though she committed suicide at the place where Master died after she persecuted him, the incident of her harming Master still happened. Apotheosis Bella was completely shocked. Shade Demon Zhu Wuxiu? It was no wonder that Shade Demon Zhu Wuxiu's subordinates were present in the siege of the Rosefinch Holy Sect by Great Emperor Danqing and Zither Demon Jiuyao. It was even rumored that Shade Demon Zhu Wuxiu had personally killed a few elders of the Rosefinch Holy Sect. So these rumors were all true. Among the enemies, there was also the Shade Demon Supreme Zhu Wuxiu. Apotheosis Bella clenched her fists and coldly said, "Whoever dares to hurt him is my enemy. Not even her. It's good that she's dead. If she's not dead, I won't let her have it easy." Apotheonmu shook his head and sighed. "Venerable Immortal, Master personally said that she's still alive. However, the matter between them had already been written off. From now on, they would only be passers-by. Also, there's one more thing I need to tell you. Master now has other women, and a lot of them." Apotheosis Bella's body trembled. After staring blankly for a long time, she suddenly burst into laughter and said, "He regretted it. Ha ha ha, he finally got it. A lot of them is good. The more the better. I'll be happy even if all the women in the immortal world are his." Ha ha ha. Apotheonmu asked in disbelief. "Don't tell me you're not." Apotheosis Bella smiled brightly and asked back, "Jealous? Why would I be jealous? If he can have other women, I'll have a chance. What I'm most afraid of is that he doesn't have the slightest interest in any woman other than that bitch." Apotheonmu was tongue-tied as he listened to Apotheosis Bella's remarks. His heart was in turmoil, and the shock he felt was hard to comprehend. He simply couldn't imagine how much Apotheosis Bella loved his master to the extent that she could have such thoughts. After a long time, with a deep sigh, Apotheonmu said, "Venerable, Master being able to get your feelings is the proudest thing in his life. Although he didn't say anything, I think he already regards you as one of his own." Apotheosis Bella raised her hand to wipe the tears from her eyes. Her pear-blossoming smile was extremely moving. She nodded heavily and said word by word, "I firmly believe that I'll soon become one of his own in the eyes of those he cares about. I'm looking forward to the day when I can call you Master's wife," said Apotheonmu. Having said that, Apotheonmu didn't stay any longer. After leaving the palace, he directly left with Zenith Venerable and Seaway Monarch. However, before the three of them left, Zenith Venerable and Seaway Monarch were keenly aware that an extremely weak figure appeared at the palace gate behind them and watched them leave. Suddenly, Apotheonmu's body trembled. The words that were transmitted to the depths of his heart made him feel touched and admiration. It should be right. The relationship between Master and Apotheosis Bella must be very deep, said Seaway Monarch. Zenith Venerable replied, "Yes, I've seen Apotheosis Bella before. Rumor has it that she has broken through to the supremacy stage. A dignified supremacy stage powerhouse actually appeared to see us off in person. This shows that the purpose of Apotheonmu's visit is very important to her. And this important factor is likely to be because of Master." The exchange between the two quickly ended. The two of them were even more convinced that their master, Great Tang Heavenly Emperor, and Star Cultivation Great Emperor, or someone from the Rosefinch Holy Sect, had a deep relationship. It was so deep that even Apotheosis Bella, who once loved Star Cultivation Great Emperor, had to personally see them off despite being seriously injured to show how much she valued them. A month later, Apotheonmu's trio returned to the misty spring ocean. When Apotheonmu handed over more than 450 million immortal crystals and 87 million crystal essences to Tan Xiao, he recounted the process of meeting Apotheosis Bella, as well as Apotheosis Bella's words and actions. Finally, he said, "Master, Apotheosis Bella gave us all these immortal crystals and crystal essences, but her immortal lyceum's treasury has been cleaned out. Before she came back, she also told me to pass a message to you." "What is it?" Although Tan Xiao had already guessed it, he still asked with a complicated expression. "The heart of the past, the feelings of true love, will never change for generations to come," said Apotheon Mu. Tanxiu clenched his fists and slowly loosened them. After a long time, he faintly sighed and looked at Apotheon Mu. From today onward, you and Yen will be stationed at Repose Cliff. You must not leave unless it's absolutely necessary. Additionally, Seaway Monarch and Zenith Venerable, the two perfected golden immortals, will stay here to guard Misty Spring Island. While you're away, I've arranged an unparalleled array within a radius of 50 kilometers of Repose Cliff. Even if a supremacy stage powerhouse were to attack, you'll be able to hold on for a quarter of an hour as long as you're in charge of the array. Additionally, I've also personally arranged a spatial teleportation array that can teleport people tens of thousands of miles away. Where are you going, Master? Asked Apotheon Mu hurriedly. I'm going to take Anti-Star Tears on a trip to the Sacred Dragon Immortal Domain 12 immortal domains away from here, said Tanxiu. I'm going to buy a batch of perfected golden immortal gladiators. They will become an important battle force for us to rescue your 4 junior brothers and junior sisters. Master, the journey to the Sacred Dragon Immortal Domain is very long, and there are several chaotic immortal domains in between, said Apotheon Mu hurriedly. I'm really worried if you only take Anti-Star Tears with you. How about you take Zenith Venerable and Seaway Monarch as well? There's no need to take them. Don't worry. Tanxiu shook his head. Besides Anti-Star Tears, I'll also take Dragonfly and Battlepung with me. I know about Battlepung, but who's Dragonfly? Asked Apotheon Mu confused. A smile appeared on the corner of Tanxiu's mouth as he said, He's a child I met on the way to the Misty Spring Ocean. He's also your junior brother. I just didn't expect that I would pick up a treasure on a whim. You mean junior brother Dragonfly is very special? Asked Apotheon Mu in surprise. He's very special. You can't imagine how special he is, said Tanxiu with a smile. We can save a lot of trouble as long as he's with us. All right, I'll leave this place to you. There's no time like the present, so we'll leave today. We'll definitely come back in a few months or half a year. It's just that the plan to rescue the 4 of them has to be put on hold. Apotheon Mu nodded and said, The best time to rescue them is when we're well prepared. I'm sure we can make it even if we have to wait for half a year. In the vast universe of the immortal world, Tanxiu sat cross-legged on the golden carriage pulled by the Cloudpiercer beast, quietly cultivating, while Dragonfly and Battlepung sat cross-legged on both sides of him, seriously cultivating. Only Star Tears, clad in a black robe and carrying an immortal sword on her back, was calmly watching the surroundings. Star Tears couldn't understand why Tanxiu only brought the 3 of them out this time. From her observation of Tanxiu, she had always thought that Tanxiu was afraid of death. He didn't even hesitate to spend a huge number of immortal crystals and crystal essences to buy a large number of golden immortals from the convict arena. He even bought 3 perfected golden immortals. However, she also found another situation. Her master rarely communicated with her. He even seemed to faintly reject her. We're almost at Agarit Castle, right? Suddenly, Tanxiu opened his eyes and asked. Star Tears woke up from her thoughts and nodded. We're still millions of kilometers away from Agarit Castle. We can get there in half an incense stick of time. Do you want to go to Agarit Castle, Your Majesty? That's right. I do want to go to Agarit Castle, said Tanxiu. Maybe there'll be an unexpected harvest there. Do you want to buy some poisonous mushrooms? Asked Star Tears. Today's 4th update has ended. It's already the end of the month. I'm asking for monthly votes and recommendation votes. Thank you very much _carrot also. Quiet Night has just updated the Stunning Beauty list on her WeChat public account. Guess who the latest Stunning Beauty is? If you haven't followed the WeChat public account, please follow it as soon as possible. Quiet Night's WeChat public account is JYGS00. Or directly search for Quiet Night Thoughts in the WeChat subscription account and follow it. Fresh and hot stunning beauties are waiting for our brothers and sisters to taste _carrot. That you're tuning in to the Lime's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.